Backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Trying to force the play, and it's intercepted. BJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Thursday afternoon. It is June the 19th, and we are, as always, in studio. Hope you have had a great day. We have Garrett Ross, Emery Winter, and Andrew Valade running the mothership in different ways here as we take you over the next 3 hours every weekday afternoon, most every weekday afternoon until 6 o'clock from 3 o'clock Central. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak join me, and this cracked me up yesterday. So I guess this was after we had left the studio. We've had so many different guests, so many analysts, writers, columnists, ADs, presidents. It seems like you can imagine about the college football playoff and the format. We all have our opinion about what and how we think it should go. And the college commissioners, the conference commissioners decided to start over, basically back to square one on determining how they will set up the 26 college football playoff format. Big Ten, SEC initially wanted the 4 automatic qualifiers apiece. Of course, the ACC and the Big 12 said no. ACC and Big 12 pushed back. SEC coaches later publicly did not support 4 automatic qualifying model, preferring 5 AQs and 11 at large. So you go on and on with this. SEC wants more value given the strength of schedule. Here's the bottom line with all of what I've just said and what else is on. They still can't make a decision of what they want. And give and take whatever. This is, to me, it's hilarious that 10 commissioners cannot put themselves in a room and get something done.
Well, it's not 10, it's 2. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Paul. Because they signed the memorandum of understanding, which is such a weird name for something. But they signed that memorandum that said that you guys are going to make the decision on it. But they also they can't just make the decision and then tell everybody. There has to be some talk about it. And, I guess the fear was that they would come up with something like these AQs and then just do it. Well, that's not at all what happened. And now, the SEC's really trying to stay at 8 games. They don't really have any impetus to go to 9 games. And the Big Ten wants them to. The Big Ten is trying to increase their own value, which, I get all that. But this is back to the drawing board. And, I would not be surprised to see in 2026 that we're still at 12. But they have until December 1st to get this all worked out. I think they thought that they were just going to get it done. And clearly there's too many differences between the 2 leagues. And you find that out when you start measuring and when you get territorial and you start, kind of measuring D's, right? Like, oh no, this is tough. You should have this. We have 9, you have 8, but our 8's bigger than your 9. You're like, 8 is not bigger than 9 in any metric, but ours is. We're not about length. We're about girth. All these different things. That's kind of how it sounds to me.
I got a little bit too close right there.
Yeah.
Craig.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal right now. I mean, it's a process that's playing out. We don't have to be on the edge of our seats for every decision, and there will come a point in time where if they haven't decided, then, that will be somewhat worrisome. But it's not as though if they don't come to an agreement by December, the whole world falls apart. It's just, hey, we don't get this brand new expanded playoff. And you know what? I think most people would be absolutely all right with that, to let this thing breathe the way that it was intended to. Well, I say it was intended to. I don't know how long it was ever intended to breathe, but instead of just going, well, last year's first round sucked, we need to fast forward. Why not have it for, another year after that? I don't know. I'm not too worried about them ultimately figuring something out. It's not 10, it's 2, like Paul said. And there's a couple things that come into play here. The SEC was originally on board for the initial 4 AQs, but the moment the Big 12 and the ACC, as this says, pushed back, the SEC looked around the room. They're like, all right, well, what are they looking at on this other? Oh, wow. We get 8 teams in this thing every year if we do it this way. If we go the other direction, that actually could work more in our favor than the 4 AQs. So I don't blame the SEC for deciding that maybe they want to go the different direction than they originally intended because it's better for them probably in the short term and the long term. So I don't know if it's better for college football. I really don't think that it is, unless the Big 12 and the ACC are able to just win some bigger games and make this thing a little bit more interesting. Otherwise, I do think it becomes sort of the SEC invitational, especially when you're already massaging the strength of schedule and trying to make that a thing, knowing full well that will always play in your favor more than it will play in everybody else's, because you start the season with like 10 teams ranked every year. So you're going to play a bunch of ranked games, and you can't guarantee that necessarily everywhere else. So they're already trying to massage strength of schedule, because if they can do that and it favors them, which is why I've always been like, all right, what are the details of the strength of the schedule metric? Like if it's just preseason polls and whatnot, then yeah, this is a terrible idea. But if it is something that's more balanced and not biased in any way, that's great. But with strength of schedule being a big factor, knowing they'll always have probably the top strength of schedules, knowing they'll always have the benefit of the doubt of the media and general public opinion, they stand to benefit greatly from this. So I don't blame them for changing their mind. Now, what we need to relay is what we've heard about the Big Ten. And we have done this constantly, and I've brought it up like once a week for like probably 6 straight weeks of we get into this role about talking about Greg Sankey and the SEC, and I'm like, wait a second. There's another guy out there. There's another league out there that got 50% say on all of this. And so while one's being painted as the big bad boogeyman, and I understand why I have my own gripes at times, I don't think that's always the case. So the SEC wants what they want because that will serve them the best. That's what they should want. Now, why does the Big Ten have a gripe with that? Let's relay what we've heard as far as the Big Ten goes.
Here's the deal. The ADs in the Big Ten feel like they have been all but promised that they would have the 4 automatic qualifiers. And that came from the top. You hear a lot from Sankey. There's also Petiti and, of course, Yormark and Phillips. But the ADs in the Big Ten felt like, well, because they have clout too, that they were going to get, they were pretty much all but promised that they were going to get 4 automatic qualifiers.
And they should definitely want that, because they aren't like the SEC guaranteed to have 6 or 7 teams in every year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, without the automatic qualifiers being that 4-4, 2-2, whatever it was, 1-1, now the ADs in the Big Ten are going, well, wait a minute. We're down the road here with this. We've heard from other coaches. You hear from the SEC. They've had their spring meetings. The Big Ten had theirs, and they really was very quiet under the radar, which has been the case a lot. No, the ADs in the Big Ten said, no, you said we were going to get 4 automatic qualifiers. Why the hell is that not happening? And that has now taken all of this that seemed to be on a pretty smooth ride with a bump or two and put it completely in park.
That's part of what we heard, but the other part of it, Paul can fill in the rest, also has to do with, believe it or not, a TV network trying to pull strings behind the scenes. So why
who's the
is
one
a TV network involved, and how does that have anything to do with this in the Big Ten, Paul?
Well, Fox wants more value out of the Big Ten. And here's the thing about Fox getting more value out of the Big Ten. They don't have the SEC. It's exclusive. Fox is diversified portfolio-wise a little bit differently, because they have the Big Ten, but they don't have the Big Ten exclusively. They have to share it with CBS and NBC. So much like the SEC used to be, they're sharing it. So they have to maximize, particularly the fact that they own the Big Ten network along with the Big Ten conference. They own that. They're trying to maximize it. So they need more quality games, because I do think that they found out that, like, okay, well, for every single Oregon versus Ohio State, there's 5 other games that are just middle of the road games, which is the case in most every other conference. The SEC has a bit of an advantage in that, because they've had teams that have won national titles, although some of them have been 20 years ago, at least that they've done it. So even though Florida's been an average team forever, Florida versus Georgia is still a massive game, as where if you go back to some of the last times that teams not named Ohio State and Michigan in the Big Ten won a national championship. I'm leaving Nebraska out of this one. But if you go back when you're talking about Minnesota in the 30s, like, it's been a long time. So before there was television, college football was when most of these teams had their glory days. And so it's hard to kind of create those natural brand matchups, even though you've got some big brands in there. They want more of it. And the AQs were going to help them do that, because they were going to set up these playing games. But I don't think the fans have any appetite for that. And clearly, they needed to set up a system that was going to give them 4 AQs, like Craig said, because the SEC didn't have to worry about that. In a 5+11 format, they're getting 4 on a terrible
There's
year.
Never a chance. I don't see where they don't play 4
they're not
teams,
getting 4 and maybe not more. So they shouldn't have to worry about it. But in a 5+11 format for the Big Ten, because they're not the SEC, they're just a fancy version of everybody else. Historically, when it comes down to that, they might get 2 or 3 in certain years.
So the fight, as we've come to learn more about it, is definitely the Big Ten wanted their way because that's the best way for them. And the SEC said, yeah, we can do that too. But now that you have opened this other door, we can get 5, 6, 7, 8 in, and we don't have to worry about the AQs because we'll always have 4 no matter what. And so they're saying, well, damn, that's actually a good idea. And that's where the break has come. And the Big Ten is getting a little nudge from Fox, right? About, hey, we need bigger games. We need more ratings. And yeah, so the play-in games thing I think is interesting because to hear some people lay it out, I do think there's some validity to it, and it could be really cool. I also see it from the other vantage point, and I can see where it's just kind of like it's just too much. It's just too far from what we've typically done. But yeah, I mean that's where we are, and so that agreement is no longer, and they're still working that out. And I'm highly intrigued to see where eventually they land. But it's not like there's not a playoff if they don't come to an agreement, and it's certainly not something they have to do right this very moment. So yeah, I mean they're like anything else going to probably get down to the wire. But until we get to like December, I'm not going to really worry too much about whether they come to an agreement or not. I know network executives and others really into that thing will worry about it. But for now, I'm just going to enjoy those two battling it out and see who emerges on top when it's all said and done.
Don't ever, please God, the rest of our lives in college sports use alliance or anything like that.
Yeah,
not,
right.
With the Big Ten, remember, with the ACC and the Pac-12, we know what happened there. And I don't know if that ever was brought up, alliance with the SEC and the Big Ten. Maybe somebody used that term. I'm not sure. From TMB, time for the 64-team Super League and everyone else in the G5 Cup. We're really close to that.
We're getting close, buddy.
Very, very close.
We're zooming our way there, man.
The G5 is allowed to park in the parking lot, but they have one spot. And that's, again, for them, sometimes maybe they have 2 teams that should be able to be a part of it. They're going to have to be really, really good to be able to get to be a part of that, whether it's 12 or 16.
I would say 16 is their shot to get to, because you'd have to have Boise State is classic Boise State, and then UNLV is really good again.
Tulane,
someone like that, and it just gets down to the point where you've got 2 ACC teams, and that's about all they can muster in a given year. And you're like, well, might as well welcome in, guys.
Yeah, it is funny in a way because you could see this shift. It's getting so much publicity, and it should. College football is an incredibly popular sport and game, and people love it. But all of a sudden, I'm on my way home, and I see that note from Brett McMurphy. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. They're going back to square one.
I mean, I don't know if it's –
it is absolutely what
it's square one. It's just I don't know. I think of that term more negatively. I don't really view this all that negatively because I don't have any skin in the game. I'm just an innocent bystander college football fan who know I'm getting served whatever I'm getting served. In my opinion on it doesn't matter. I'm not making any decisions that are going to impact this playoff and how it eventually works.
In business terms, they're right back where they started when they were discussing going to 16.
I get it. Yeah. I just don't think it's like an ominous thing. I don't think it's like necessarily a total negative thing. There might actually be some good that comes out of them going back to the drawing board, so to speak. So, yeah, I mean, I get it, but I just believe that this is going to be all right in the end as far as getting worked out. Now, depending on how strong your opinion is of what you want, it may not be all right in the end. If you're somebody that just really loves 4 automatic qualifiers and playing games and all those, I don't know if that's where we land, or if you're on the opposite side, maybe you're upset with it in the end. But I'm okay if we have to do another year of the 12 team. That's fine with me. But I'm confident that those two will work it out ultimately. But in the meantime, I'd rather them not work it out and us just, first of all, it's the offseason, so we're always going to hyper focus on these things to begin with, even though this is a big deal. But in the meantime, like I said a moment ago, I'm going to enjoy the power struggle. Those two can do whatever they want when they're together, but at times they are absolutely not going to agree on things. And that's going to be the fun part, because you can just sit back and watch how the politics and the negotiations and the networks will get involved here. And Fox, absolutely one of the AQs for the Big Ten. Fox is absolutely trying to get more juice out of their Big Ten squeeze. And it's not, and I don't want anybody, it's not like they're upset with their TV deal or anything like that. It's just that they want more, right? They're not getting as much as they would like. And so the play-in games and the automatic 4 qualifiers was, for Fox, a great thing for their Big Ten contract. But the SEC obviously saw that they're good either way. Like, they're the opposite of damned if you do, damned if you don't. They're like, great if you do, great if you don't on either one of these things. So I don't blame them for stepping back and going, did y'all just open the door for us to get more teams in? Hell yeah, we're going to sit and take our time and try to decide if we can finagle this thing a different way. So let the politics and the games and negotiations begin between those two, and we'll see where we are days, weeks, months from now.
Somebody mentioned, they said, I agree with Craig. It is June. It's not, maybe if we get to October, you start to wonder. They do need to have it done by December. And like with anything else, contract holdouts, et cetera, they'll have it all done. But there might still be a few catfights along the way. Now, there was another tweet, Garrett, that you wanted to put up. This is from...
All right, so let me handle this.
What I'm telling you, I can barely read that right
So
there.
Grok is obviously AI on X.
He played tight end for the Patriots.
No. Yeah. So Grok is AI, and everybody does this thing now after there's a post of any sort. It's like, Grok, explain this to me like you're a hillbilly farmer from the Great Depression era, and then Grok does its AI thing. And so I guess, somebody, No 3 Sports, explain this to me like I'm a redneck from the South, and this is what Grok spit out, and I don't know that I'm going to do a thing.
Would you like me to do a character?
Go ahead, comedian. Go ahead. Yeah, yes,
I'll do a character. Hold on, let me pull it up on the slide so I can read it here. So
I'm not the only one that couldn't read it.
Well, it's very far away.
It is away.
It's very far away. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. Here's my character, and this is as a redneck from the South.
Yes, sir. Get it.
All right, partner. Imagine the college football playoff is a big old barbecue invitational. Right now, they're arguing over who gets a guaranteed spot at the table for 2026. The SEC and Big Ten, them big dogs, want 4 spots each, leaving 2 each for ACC and Big 12. One of the little guys and 3 extras. The ACC and Big 12 say, no, let's keep it fair. 5 spots for the best champs, 11 for whoever else earns it. It's a tussle between the heavy hitters wanting control and others pushing for a square deal. No decision yet, and they're still jawing about it with a deadline by December 1st, 2025.
They're still jawing about it. Yeah,
there we go.
This might be an unfair request, but can you talk like that all the time during the show?
I can try. I will tell you this. There's 2 thoughts I have on that. One, that was very funny, and 2, it's terrifying that Grok has figured out how to maybe write jokes.
And you see it a lot. Like, there's I see the Jamaican one quite a bit of Grok, and it'll be like some statement from the White House, and it'll be like, "Hey, Grok, explain this to me like a Rastafarian or something." And then it, who said AI was all bad? But no, there is some fun to be had, and that's a little humor in what is not really a totally serious situation. But that's a great breakdown of it. So there you go. Thanks to Grok for helping explain it further from a Southerner's point of view, I guess.
All right, so a couple of other notes from Ross Dellinger on the NCAA governance update, the model on Wednesday, the latest version to commissioners, the primary piece of the proposal, 65% weighted, voting powers for A4, that's ACC, SEC, Big Ten, and also the Big 12 remain unchanged. The Board of Directors in Division I will discuss at their meeting next week, but no action is expected yet. Here's what I still want to go. I always want to make sure we remind anyone, if the Big 12 and the ACC feel like they're not getting enough of the right pie, or they're not getting, yet in here, they're getting equal terms.
I mean, that like the 65% of the voting powers for them, I mean, makes it way more advantage to them. That's not going to change. 35% for all the other leagues, which, was what, 8 of them in this level. And then I guess, A4 and Notre Dame, I mean, they're part of that as well. So they'll get to vote, how they want to vote on these things. But I think that like of the few ideas that like the college presidents have had, I do think that you should have the people with the most money who have the most capacity to cheat vote. I mean, you can't vote on them to with their punishments, but say like, all right, let's put this on an even playing field, because what happens, in a Sun Belt school and what happens in an SEC school as far as, rule breaking can quite often be drastically different. So if you're going to like come down and be severe about things, let the people who break the rules the hardest, figure out what that is and figure out how to punish each other. So
if they all agree, if they could all agree on the governance, the model 3 of the 4 voting in the same way fails to reach 51% threshold. That's a key point. Then you, of course, have to put things back on the table. Something that's emerging, Ross Dellinger saying, Division I commissioners meetings, the annual cost to operate college sports and NIL goal remains unclear. Non-A4 commissioners have been told that schools will be assessed annually and have to prepare for something in the neighborhood of $50,000. This is all a part of payments and making sure you take care of this and you take care of that. The power leagues are footing the bill for the implementation, and that's why also they get the 65%.
Well, yeah, but $50,000. I mean, look, I get it.
If you can't swing school. $50K, then you don't belong in this level of football. I mean, that's just bottom line. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes that might be what you have to pay a kid just to talk to him.
That's also for supporting whoever's going to be a part of this this group. Everyone's got to pay for it. I mean, it's just like anything else. If you're a part of it, whether you're a 5% partner or you're one that owns 85% of it.
Yeah, and so they'll have to do that. I mean, I that's getting super into the weeds, but I know there's people that enjoy, I guess, every little detail of it. But I mean, some people are gonna have to cut a check for $50K or whatever it's gonna be. I mean, there's gonna be money that has to be spent to make all of this work. I'm not really worried about the governance model because these are all the same people, leaders, schools that have been putting together the big plan to try to save the future. So I don't see where there would really be too many hiccups there unless I'm just, blind to something. But I mean, look, man, programs are getting canceled. That's part of this. Some people are not going to be able to probably hang at a certain level. They're going to try to, and it might not work out. I'm not a fan of any of that. I'm not cheering for any of that, but that's just the reality of it. So yeah, there's going to be some things that probably aren't able to be swung by every single party. But if you can't make that additional $50,000 payment, then I don't think you belong in the game to begin with. And so that's just going to weed out those that need to be weeded out. But I don't really think that's going to be an issue.
All right. We've got guests coming up in a moment. Sam Khan, Shahan Jararaja, John Wilner with an update on that Mountain West and Pacific Coast and what's going on with the Pac-12 and where are some things there. He'll join us today. Craig's off the radar. Mickey Spagnola today at 5:30, and also Paul's Top 5 and Andrew with a couple of polls. One of them has already been put up. Let's go to the Graham Harrell note. Graham Harrell, remember the day we had him on? It's been a few months when the National Football Foundation released the ballot and then, of course, mentioned the College Football Hall of Fame, class of 2025. Graham Harrell is now Texas Tech. Contacted him yesterday. Kirby Hocutt on the phone with him in a Zoom and telling him that he would be a part of the Texas Tech Ring of Honor. This is great news because you'd rather be, first of all, in your Ring of Honor at the school, which would also then be a credential that helps you get into the college football or pro football or any kind of Hall of Fame. So congratulations to Graham Harrell, who now, of course, is on the staff at Abilene Christian.
I thought you got inducted and your jersey retired before you even had the spring semester. And was that only in Colorado? Yeah. I'm sorry. You have to actually wait for the – no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, it's well-deserved. He's one of the greatest players in Big 12 history and Texas college history. He's definitely got a place, a chapter, a write-up, and obviously in Texas Tech history, he's one of the greatest players they've ever had. So, yeah, well-deserved honor. He's pretty far removed from his playing career at this point. So, yeah, it's about that time to start getting things like this. And what was it when we talked to him about the last time that he had gotten?
The College Football Hall of Fame.
Okay, yeah, it was the CFB. Okay, yeah.
He didn't even know. He said he used to always get at least a nugget or someone would tell him, hey, you're on the ballot. But he didn't even know that he had been inducted. We called him, and he was like blown away by that. So that was great to be able to tell him about the Hall of Fame that he's a part of, and now he's part of the one where he played football.
Yeah, and I joke about the Colorado thing, but what's funny about that is I'm not actually far off. Patrick Mahomes got inducted already, and he was like 2 years removed when he got inducted. So he's already been inducted into the Ring of Honor, and That happened very, very quickly. So just not like before the school year finished for him. That was the thing that was so crazy about Colorado, especially. It was like, dude, they just finished the season and you're already doing this. Patrick Mahomes, though, was pretty quick turnaround as well. So looking at that list, here are the names he will be joining. Donnie Anderson, E.J. Halub, Dave Parks.
E.J. Halub.
Halub, excuse me. Dave Parks, all inducted in 2012. I was going Halub first, and then for some reason I doubted that for some reason.
He played for the Kansas City Chiefs, a great player.
I just go with your gut, right?
Yep,
go with your gut, man. Yep. All right, so Anderson, Halub, and Parks all in 2012. Gabe Rivera in 2014. Zach Thomas, Zach Thomas 2016. Michael Crabtree and Elmer Tarbox in 21. Mahomes in 22, Thomas Howard, Andre Tillman, and Wes Welker in 24, and now Graham Harrell, the next and latest in the Tech Ring of Honor.
I believe Thomas Howard is someone I covered. He was a high school player, I believe, at Longview.
Did you say Crabtree?
Yeah.
Okay, Crabtree. Okay, I didn't. I thought you did, but
2021.
Yeah, so it's weird. I mean, I know you have to space these things out, and Graham's been a coach too, so it's hard to get him, where he's going to be there during the season and line all that up. But he would be one of the ones I thought would have maybe even been earlier. I mean, again, he played before Mahomes.
He could have been the one you justified doing within a couple of years. For sure. I mean, like they did with the Mahomes
Thomas Howard was not from Longview. There's a different one. He's from Lubbock.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is the obviously most skilled quarterback in Texas Tech history because there's nobody like him. He's a unicorn and is on his way to, they might give him 10 busts in the NFL Hall of Fame, but but Graham Harrell was probably the most successful, right? As far as wins goes and putting them on the map or kind of stamping their place on the map. Kingsbury kind of helped, but he was the one I thought, Craig and I had this while you were gone. If Patrick Mahomes wasn't there, who would be the guy? And most of them, Graham Harrell.
Yeah, it would be Graham Harrell. He had a lot of records, won a lot of trophies, won a lot of games. The famous Crabtree play against Texas. I mean, just a lot of stuff that he accomplished there. So, yeah, he's one of the greatest Red Raiders of all time and certainly deserving of a place in their Ring of Honor. But unfortunately for him, he just happened to go to a school where within 10 years of him leaving, the greatest quarterback in the history of American football just decided to also go to Texas Tech and play for Cliff Kingsbury. And that's why he will now be number 2 or wherever you place him personally. But, Patrick has taken over that mantle. There's no argument about number 1 anymore.
Interesting. Seth Dagey, who we brought up yesterday with Brent Brennan at Arizona, is 4th on the all-time passing yards list at Tech. And Billy Joe Tolliver is a guy I saw him in high school win a state championship, I think at Boyd, was a fantastic player, but there's a whole bunch of them.
And I need to clarify, first of all, they had to put so many great quarterbacks under Leach that it almost became like a system thing, and they got knocked for that. And it wasn't their fault. It's they were all very prolific. B.J. Simmons, all the rest of those guys. But, Mahomes from a superstar standpoint is a clear number 1. It's not even a conversation, but Harrell had the more successful teams by far. They had the bigger moments in games. Patrick was just so damn good individually. But Harrell and his total package, I think, when you think about the records, but also the team success, you could make an argument for him number 1 if you're talking strictly Texas Tech, right? But, overall football, it's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's Jim Brown, that's Joe Montana, that's whatever your greats list are. Patrick Mahomes is already on that list, and he's just getting started, which is the scary part.
Yeah, I mean, Harrell was a part of the most successful 4-year run, and they had a few, but he was a part of an incredible run. 9, 8, 9, and 11 wins when he was the quarterback at Tech.
And unfortunately for him, I know we got to go, but my memory of his as an Oklahoma fan, that game where they went up to Norman and had an opportunity to go and possibly play for a national championship, to win a Big 12 title, had beaten Texas. And I'll never forget the shot on the sideline of Harrell standing there next to Mike Leach, and they are both just completely just perplexed as to what to do and what's going on because Oklahoma had just swarmed them. Sorry for the bad memory, Tech fans, but I always had that image of Graham Harrell just standing there, just kind of not knowing what to do, ingrained in my memory. But good dude, and congrats to him.
Donnie Anderson, a former multi-type player. He was a great player for the Packers, too, under Vince Lombardi. punter, running back.
What was his nickname?
I always think I get it mixed up with Paul Horning. Donnie Anderson.
When I met him at the he had a nickname, and I remember thinking
Golden Palomino.
The Golden Palomino. Thank you.
All right, Sam Kahn will join us. Shahan Jararaja, who wrote a story about the best coaching hires in college football since the start of 2000, the last 25 years. John Wilner on what else is going on with the Mountain West and the Pac-12, and really what is legitimate and who is legitimate about who might be joining any of that. That's what we have coming up today. We appreciate your time. This is 365 Sports.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Right now at Berg Collision Ford, we're bringing you an offer that's as big as America. Employee pricing for everyone. You pay what they pay. That means you drive home a new Ford F-150, Bronco Sport, Expedition, Super Duty. From America, for America. Employee pricing for everyone at BK Ford. Looking to sell your vehicle? Get top dollar for yours today. Don't miss out. Employee pricing is available for a limited time. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Experience better at BK Ford.
I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Kim Coulter, thanks for the super chat. We appreciate that. I'll read it here in just a second on the Texas Tech Oklahoma series and rivalry. Sam Kahn, how do we say it? Kahn! That's what the chat room. They love you, Sam. Good to have you back with us today on 365 Sports. So when you saw yesterday evening the college football playoff, the commissioners, and well, we need to kind of reboot this thing, and we got time and all that stuff. But what was your thoughts when you saw that I keep on saying back to square one, which in business terms, that's what they're doing.
Funny enough, I didn't see it last night. I was deep into working on some other stuff, but I saw it this morning kind of casually. I'll be completely honest with you. I have kind of checked out of following the updates of the college football playoff format because on one hand, I kind of resigned myself to the fact that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to get what they want, but if they don't agree on what they want, then maybe we'll stick with what we have now, which is not so bad. Because I did never understood the rush to expand it after 1 year. And I think we've talked about this before, is maybe take a little bit larger sample size before we rush to expand the playoff. And I still have my skepticism because they're trying to tinker with the selection committee and the metrics and all that stuff. And the bottom line is they're going to try to tilt it to the direction of those two conferences. So that's part of why I've checked out of it, because I just, to me, just tell me what it is when it's over. But I will say this, the more that we push it off and the longer we take to actually decide on something, I think the better, because that, to me, increases the chance that they either A, we stick with the status quo, or B, if they do tweak the format, that we're not increasing automatic qualifiers, that we're going 5 plus 11, which I think to me is the only acceptable way to expand. It's either 5 AQs with 11. Well, I shouldn't say the only way. 5 AQs with 11 at large, 10 AQs for every conference with 6 at large, or no AQs with 1 through 16. To me, those are the only 3 acceptable formats. Anything that has multiple automatic bids for a conference, to me, is dead on arrival.
Yeah, Sam, it is funny that you sign a memorandum of understanding. You think you're going to be able to come to something. One side comes up with a plan, the other one takes it to its people, and they're like, "Well, that's dumb. We don't need the help." Like, I think that's the funny thing about the SEC is their coaches were like, "Well, we don't need that. We don't need, if you're going to make it 16, like, we'll try to get 8. Like, don't worry about that. Like, we don't need their help." And then now it's kicked off this little tete-a-tete that's slowed down the process.
They don't. And we've went over this. I think they've gone over the numbers over the last, if you were to extrapolate this format over the last decade, the SEC and the Big Ten would have the most teams in it. So what are we doing? Why do we need extra automatic qualifiers? And if anything, I think that's what Greg Sankey and the SEC coaches figured out, is that if we have only 4 automatic qualifiers, they may actually be limiting themselves, because the deference is going to be given to the SEC schools. I don't have to tell you that, Paul, after 2023, but that's the thing that also makes me puzzled and fascinated by this, is that in 2023, we already went through this when a 1-loss Alabama got in over an undefeated Florida State, but we're trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater because a 3-loss Alabama did not get in over SMU, who had 2 losses. And so you only have to rewind a year earlier to see where the SEC got that deference. And in most cases, most years, they are going to get that in an at-large format.
So this is random, but we were just talking about Texas Tech announcing that Graham Harrell is going to be joining their Ring of Honor. He's the 12th member. What pops to mind for you when you think of Graham Harrell and just his place in college football, his place when it comes to Texas Tech?
The 2008 Texas game, that throw to Michael Crabtree on the right sideline. He's more than that. I mean, he is probably, I know there's a lot of Patrick Mahomes love, and deservedly so, but as a program quarterback and for what he accomplished and what that team accomplished, Graham Harrell is probably the standard for Texas Tech, certainly in this century. Mahomes individually is the best, but they didn't really have a lot of success, and that wasn't his fault. They had no defense when Mahomes was there. They actually had a respectable defense when Harrell was there. But Harrell, to me, is the standard bearer of Texas Tech quarterbacks at the college level. And so, but the first thing that pops to mind is that night in Lubbock when they had 3 field stormings, by the way, if you guys remember. People stormed the field, they kicked the extra point, and then at the kickoff, they stormed the field, and then they had to put it back, and they kept doing it until they finally got the clock to run out, and then everybody ran onto the field and had a blast. That was a peak moment in Texas Tech history. But Harrell was such a prolific, and he was a prolific high school quarterback too. That's the other thing. He put up great numbers at the high school level and broke some Texas high school records there. So great quarterback. Interesting. I was having a discussion the other day. His coaching career hasn't gone quite like I thought it would.
No,
he had that really good run at North Texas. And then after that, it hasn't really gone the way he is. He's back in Texas at Abilene Christian now as the offensive coordinator. So he's succeeding Rick Bowie over there. So I'm interested to see if he kind of gets it back going, because I thought he did a really good job when he was with Seth Luttrell at UNT. But great quarterback, seemed to be a good offensive mind, and really a guy who lives in Texas Tech lore.
The part about that throw to Crabtree it hung in the air for what seemed like forever. Great catch by Crabtree. Texas had it covered pretty well, overran it, and so did the safety, and he goes skipping into the end zone.
It's one of those like the kick six, a few years ago, and you have to watch it 100 times to see the 5,000 different things that are happening, like the guy missing the tackle and where he was on the sideline. And yeah, like that's one of those, where were you? I remember exactly where I was when this happened. And I remember exactly where I was when that happened. That was incredible. One of the craziest things I've ever seen.
And he scored with 1 second left in the game. You could have kicked the field goal to win it. They were down 1, but yeah, go ahead, Sam, with your thoughts.
Yeah,
on that.
I was going to say, if I remember, it was Curtis Brown, I think, was covering him on that play. And
from Gilmer, Texas.
And Crabtree's a big guy, he was, or at least physically imposing, and it just looked like there was no stopping him. And you would have thought, I think too, I wonder if there was I never did ever get to talk to Curtis Brown about this. I did a piece on that game back on the 10th anniversary. I don't think he ever got back to me, but I would love to know, did he think that Crabtree was going to step out of bounds because of the time? Because like you said, with the situation in the game, it would have been sensible to step out of bounds, but Crabtree wasn't going to be denied. And you talk about great players in Texas Tech history. That guy was incredible. And I think really him and Harrell both helped change that program and change the perception of that program. I mean, they were number 2 in the country after that game. And so that they were in that national championship race. And then we know what happened in Oklahoma. And then we had the 3-way tie at the end of the season. That was a really a fun time for Big 12 football, when the Big 12 was really one of the premier conferences, maybe the premier football conference at the time.
That's when the SEC coaches were calling it gimmicky offenses, and they're trying to downplay it as much as possible, only to then adapt parts of those offenses years later, and then go, now it's cool. Now we're doing it. But yeah, at the time, I remember, they don't play defense. It's all gimmicky, and yeah, what a time.
Funny how that works.
That was a lot of fun, though.
Funny how that works. I remember Kevin Sumlin and Texas A&M and Cliff Kingsbury and Johnny Manziel bringing that gimmicky offense.
Yeah,
did pretty well that first year, and then all of a sudden Nick Saban starts to do it, and then it took off around the SEC. It's kind of funny how all that works.
Yeah, it's kind of like the kid who won't have a beer in high school, and then he gets to college, and he's like, I'm not doing it. And then he takes that first sip. He's like, I love beer. This is the best. Girls
throwing the football, be successful. Who knew?
Yeah.
You didn't have to play 9-6 football games.
No. Sam, Texas A&M in recruiting right now is killing it. They just got the number 1 cornerback in the country. They're getting all this. We've seen this before. So my question is, how do they screw this class up? Or is Mike Elko, is he a guy who's learned enough to not fall into some of the traps they did before? Kevin Sumlin had that class that was number 1 in the country, and then only half of them really even made it through their freshman year because they had a lot of off-the-field problems. And then Jimbo Fisher's, for a variety of different reasons, dissipated to where it was nowhere near what he roped in.
Yeah, no, I don't have as much skepticism now as I would if it were a Jimbo Fisher class, because I do think that Mike Elko and his staff, he's got a really good personnel staff. Derek Miller, the GM over there, does a really good job. They have one of the largest personnel staffs in the country. I think they do a good job of finding not only good players, but people that fit them, that fit what they're going to do, that fit what they want to be, not just from an on-field standpoint, but from an off-field character standpoint. I think that was one thing when you talk about that 22 class at A&M, the number 1 class of all time. The biggest problem was not the talent that they recruited. The biggest problem was the personality fit. That there was no real regard for character. Jimbo Fisher was taking guys because they were talented, regardless of whether they were a position fit or regardless whether they had any red flags in their background. And I think Elko is a lot smarter than that. And I think he was there for the front end of that at that class before he left to take the Duke job. And I think he's seen enough of what went wrong at Texas A&M to know what not to do. So then that said, as optimistic as I am for them with that, I'm not going to put a ton of stock into it. And this is not A&M specific, but just in general, I think we are moving into an age where it's hard to put a ton of stock into recruiting classes because of how quickly they can turn over. Because you may sign 25 guys or 22 high school guys, but 7 or 8 of them may get in the portal in year 1, and then another 5 or 6 may get in the portal after year 2. So because of how volatile it is right now, unless you're signing some of these guys to multi-year contracts, I think I'm taking some of the recruiting rankings and nationally with a grain of salt, with some exceptions. Obviously, Ohio State has built a pretty good machine, and there are some programs, Georgia, who recruit at a certain level. Texas, I think you can even throw Texas A&M into that conversation where you can maybe put a little more stock into it. But after you get past the elite classes at the top 5, top 10 classes, I think you have to really be skeptical and be a little guarded about how much stock you put into them, because even though that's still the foundation of how you build your championship team and how you should build your championship team, it can change in a blink. And so I think you have to just be a little measured with how you judge them.
Yeah, it's crazy how much my interest has tanked in traditional recruiting in the last just couple of years. I mean, it's nowhere close, because it's like, hey, we got this 5-star. Was he going to be there 2 years from now? Probably not, depending on who you are. So I guess they're gonna have to enforce like the one-time transfer to ever fix this, right? I mean, to make it to where it actually matters the way that it used to matter, because contracts are a tricky thing just in terms of buyouts and all that. I don't think they're really trying to do that. So outside of collective bargaining, I mean, the transfer would be the only way to kind of try and get it back to where it used to be, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think that genie's going back in the bottle, though. I think the one-time transfer thing is done, and I don't think that's going back. I think the only way to do it is with multi-year contracts, and the only way to really get that to be stable is through collective bargaining. Yeah. And that's just, I think, I hesitate to say it, but I think we're going to get there at some point.
I do too.
But it's going to take a while, because the schools and the NCAA and the conference commissioners, the powers that be, do not want to go down that road. But I think over time, I have heard a little bit from coaches and even some ADs who I think understand that is the way to fix a lot of it. Because if you can do that, then you can get some of the problems solved that you can't without having the lawsuit. Because if you have the parties collectively bargaining, then you can say, okay, they agreed to this, so we can enforce it. And so I think even though I know they're trying to push for a law, I don't know. Is it possible? Yes. Do I think it's feasible, and would it hold up? No. I think it's more likely that in the long run, collective bargaining would be the long-term solution.
You mentioned on the college football playoff that you've kind of just gone off you've just zoned out on that. Isn't that the case with so many things right now in college football, from the settlement to that and everything else involved?
Not necessarily with everything. I think it's just once certain things reach a fever pitch. The problem with the playoff discussion, and the reason why I feel that way, is because I feel like we've been doing this for 4 years, ever since 2021, when they first tried to expand it to 12 teams. Because how many meetings do the board members and the commissioners and the ADs and everybody involved in the college football playoff, how many meetings do they have without actually doing something? That's why it has fatigued me a little bit, because I'm kind of over it. And also, I would say this, and I don't think I'm the only one that feels this way, but to me, who wins the national championship is far from the most important thing in college football. That's not the reason I watch college football, is to see who wins the national championship. For me, it is still at its heart of hearts a parochial regional sport. And most fans are going to care about their school, the schools in their conference, and the schools close to them or their rivals. And to me, that's where my interest still is. Nationally, of course, and part of my job, I cover the roster management and transfer portal and all that stuff, and all the movement and all the effects of the House settlement play into that. But I do think it becomes a lot of noise at some point, and you've got to kind of try to sift through all this and find the trees amidst the forest, because there's just so much coming. And the other thing is we are in June. So I think it's a lot easier to talk about this stuff right after the playoff and right after the season's over, as opposed to June, when we now have been multiple months without football, and we're kind of get into that home stretch where we kind of feel the season coming. Like, I'm at the point where I'm on the phone and I'm talking football right now. Like, I'm talking to coaches and we're talking about ball, like what their team is looking like, because now the rosters are pretty much set. Nobody's really making a lot of roster changes at this point. So now we know what these teams look like. And so I'm at that point now where I'm looking forward to football, to actual games, trying to see who's going to be good, what we're going to see, and not even just for the playoff, like who's going to be good, who's going to win all these conferences, who's going to be mixed for some of these spots, not necessarily who's going to win it all. So the format to me, the more they tweak it and the more they try to do this multiple IQ thing, the less authentic it feels like a championship. I think you guys sat with Mac Rhodes recently, and he had said it. He goes, you got to earn your way into it. to me, there's nothing about multiple AQs that earns your way into it. That's a favored status that you're giving to a conference. And so as long as if they're going to do that, then honestly, I would lose interest in the playoff in the long run. Like it would be less interesting to me if you were giving multiple AQs to the Big Ten and the SEC, even the Big 12. Like to me, multiple AQs is a non-starter. And to me, that would wane some of my interest in the playoff in the long run.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, let's focus on the postseason in week 0 and week 1, and that being the story. That's also ESPN's fault a lot of the time.
That's our fault too. I'm not gonna lie, we're guilty of it as well.
For sure, yeah.
But because you're trying to contextualize the sport for a national audience. But yeah, I'm not concerned about who's making the playoff in week 1 and week 0.
Right. Yeah. Has anybody just in your conversations, speaking of ball, maybe changed your opinion, but has put your thoughts about a certain program or something in a different place than maybe it was based on conversations heading into this season?
Yeah, it's, I will tell you this. I feel really good about Clemson. I feel like maybe they have become a trendy team to jump onto this year in the national landscape. You hear a lot of really good feedback on where they are from a talent standpoint, a roster standpoint, and Cade Klubnik, who's a veteran, who seems like he's kind of turned the corner and figured it out. From a Big 12 standpoint, I'm really intrigued by what the top of the conference is going to look like. But the thing about the Big 12 that stands out to me is how many good quarterbacks are in this league. I think when you look at it from top to bottom, like the big name quarterbacks that are making on the top of these top 10 lists are the SEC guys, your DJ Lagway, your Arch Manning, your Lenore Sellers, your John Mateer. But to me, the deepest conference in terms of quarterbacks right now is the Big 12, because look at how many returning starters you've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're looking at about 10 returning starters in this conference out of 16. And at the top, like to me, out of that top 3, Sam Leavitt, Josh Hoover, Sawyer Robertson, I would throw Rocco Becht in that conversation. Like those are really talented guys who are all returning starters, who are experienced guys that are going to have their teams in the mix. And then you look at, we talked about Texas Tech a lot this offseason. Is Baron Morton going to be able to turn that corner now that he's fully healthy and through the shoulder injury? Is Avery Johnson going to be able to bounce back and have a little bit of a better year? What does Devin Dampier bring to Utah, especially following his offensive coordinator? I'm really intrigued by him. Can Jalen Daniels stay healthy? If he does, that to me, Kansas is interesting. Noah Fafita, you guys were talking about Seth Deggy earlier. I've heard a lot of interesting feedback about how a lot of coaches think Seth Deggy's going to get Fafita right after what happened last year and things didn't go so well for him. They think offensively, from a schematic standpoint, he's going to do what fits Fafita a little bit better, and maybe that means a bounce back for him, even with T-Mac gone. So it's going to be to me, I'm fascinated to see how the quarterbacks and how the pecking order shakes out in the Big 12, because I think it's going to be a dogfight every week in this conference with as many good quarterbacks as you have in it.
Sam, You mentioned Clemson there. What do you think about Miami in that league? Do you think that they can hang? I mean, Clemson has a lot of returning players. Miami is kind of doing the transfer portal thing right now while they have maybe a better base of recruits than they had 2 years ago. I'm curious as to what you think about them with Carson Beck stepping in.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm very skeptical about Carson Beck. The elbow injury is a one concern, because, and I know the progress seems like everything's going well and everything's going smoothly, and he'll be supposedly be ready for week 1. But I'm sure you guys watched that game. It didn't look like a pretty injury into your throwing elbow. And so that's one concern. The other concern is he didn't play well last year. Like he was like, okay, Miami was on the cusp of getting to the ACC title game before that loss late in the season. Do we think that Carson Beck is going to get them to that level that Cam Ward did? Because in my opinion, he's not as dynamic a player as Cam Ward is. To me, Cam Ward can make things happen off schedule. He can create. Yes, he sometimes made some silly decisions, but for the most part, you knew when he had the ball in his hands, he could make something happen. You could get him scrambled. Carson Beck's not a statue. He is an athlete and can move a little bit, but to me, he doesn't make things happen at the same level that Cam Ward does. And I think the picture has to be clean for him. If the pressure is coming, I feel like he got a little rattled last year. And some of the decisions, some of the throws he made just really had me scratching my head. So I'm really fascinated to see what Shannon Dawson does with him, because I do think Shannon's a really good coach, and I do think offensively he can get them right. But I'm just not there on Carson Beck. So I think Miami's going to be good, but do I consider them, a slam dunk go win the ACC? No, I think they're a clear tier behind Clemson in that regard.
Kahn with us on Thursdays, most every Thursday. Sam Kahn from theathletic.com, one of the absolute most popular guests we have on the show. We appreciate it. It's good to see you. Have you had a chance to decompress a little bit?
A little bit. I'm going to have some time in July too. I got a couple weeks off that I'm taking in July. So I will have some more time, but it's been, we had a little bit of time to decompress, and then we're just grinding out on a few things here before we get to the end of the month. So
you mentioned how 10 starting quarterbacks back. Did that include Retzlaff?
Yes, that is including Retzlaff. Yeah, obviously not knowing what the situation is there.
Yeah,
but
no,
I'm including Retzlaff in there.
He was very, very good. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, with us on Thursdays almost all the time. Not every week, but every Thursday for the most part here on 365 Sports.
Do you know the reference that the chat room is making when they say Kahn like that?
Yeah, it's Batman. No. Isn't there that guy with the face
it's Bane?
Yeah, him.
No. Khan would be Star Trek 2.
Well,
William Shatner yells, Khan!
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
If you're ever on a pop culture like Jeopardy style, he is the last person that you would invite to be a part of that.
What are you laughing at, Garrett?
I wasn't Garrett, did you know that?
I did not. I'm not a Star Trek.
Okay, see? How about this from Paxton? Shaka Khan.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, Shaka Khan. Yeah, Kim Coulter, Star Trek. Paxton, Shaka Khan in the 80s, a band. I thought that was actually a single singer. But thank you very much. I know you're right. Anything like that, I would be out quickly.
I was scared.
Out quickly.
I knew you didn't know, but
what did Bane say?
Bane?
Yeah.
He says a lot of things.
He didn't have a catchphrase.
But I thought one time he said that.
No.
Okay.
No.
You could have lied.
There would be no. No.
That was a dark time in that movie when they went underground or something like that, and here comes Bane.
He threw him in a prison.
By the way you described that, I just can't wait to go see that movie. It sounds exhilarating, but yeah, no, they were underground. He had no catchphrase though whatsoever. He just had a weird voice that people complained about to some extent, but not as weird as Batman had in that movie. So
yeah. Let's see if I can do it.
Dude, that's close.
I got it. Okay, hold on. I was born in the dark. You simply embraced it. Yeah, that's Bane.
That's the guy that did Hunt for Red October?
No, that's Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy did Bane, right. one of our fantastic British actors.
Shahan Jararaja from CBS Sports ranked the top 25 coaching hires since the turn of the century. And who is a part of that? And who maybe is a little bit too high or low based on his list? We'll bring some of that up, and he'll tell us about that particular story. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor alumni fan engagement, Doug Furch and Paul Thorpe, they are already setting up. For example, usually about the same week as the Big 12 Media Days in Frisco at the Star, where the Cowboys, of course, have their headquarters. There will be an appearance from head coach Dave Aranda in front of numerous alums and boosters and donors in the Dallas area. Also, there will be other trips out west to Lubbock and Houston, San Antonio, and perhaps even Austin with the Texas tour at San Antonio, Houston, and Austin. So if you want to be a part of that, know more about it, when it's going to happen. If you don't already, go to the Facebook page for the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement. The fall kickoff luncheon in August, former quarterback Nick Florence. Boy, think about the fact after all these players have gotten extra years because of COVID and now Nick Florence gave up one full year for playing a half of football against Tech late in the year when RG3 had a concussion. Home tailgating. Also, when Baylor plays in Dallas against SMU, Bears on the road at the Bush Library on the SMU campus. For all of that information and more, tours and more, Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Good friend of the show, great friend of the show, Shahan Jararaja, CBS Sports. Here we are in the middle of June, actually towards the past mark, midway of June, and so much to get to. Shahan, great to see you. Hope you're doing really, really well. So was this one of those everyone around the table discussing topics? Was this your idea, coaching the top 25 hires since 2000?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, I think that, it's fascinating to be here in the off season of 2025 and realize we're already a quarter of the way through the next century. And, we really started sitting back and thinking just a little bit about some of the big names and faces that have really defined the past couple of years. And ultimately, I was the guy to put it together.
So there are many coaching hires, and this could be debated forever and ever. How did you kind of position whether somebody took over a program that was a mess or somebody that just did so well that they had to be among the top 5 or 10?
Yeah, well, I think that criteria plays a huge part in this list. And I think for me, I wanted to see a couple of things. Look, if you've taken a program and competed at the highest level, I think that gives you a chance to be on this list. But I really wanted to see your context. I really wanted to see what you took over, what your trajectory was. So there were coaches, for example, who took over great situations and achieved great things. And they appeared on the list, but they might not be near the top of the list. There are other coaches who took over bad situations and turned them into really good situations. I tended to value something like that. And the way that we phrased it too was the top 25 coaching hires. So, I really wanted to go in and kind of think, look, there are certain things that maybe are no-brainers. There are certain situations that maybe weren't. I think that I wanted to reward programs that took a chance and ultimately paid off in a big way as well.
What do you think the biggest swing by any of these programs was?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, there's kind of a group in the middle that were promoted assistant coaches, Kyle Whittingham, Mike Gundy, Gary Patterson among them. And I think, again, like you look back and like, why did Clemson necessarily go with Dabo Swinney, right? Like that was a big swing to obviously take somebody who had been there in the program as the program started to falter and ultimately decided to give him the head job. So I think that type of coach was really impressive when you know that you have a good thing and are able to identify it early. I think some of the others that come to mind are, look, you look around, the traditional pathway, I think, has been to take guys who are, group of five, smaller P4 head coaches, and then take them to bigger programs. I give a lot of credit to some of these programs that also decided to go kind of non-traditional routes. I mean, for Georgia, this is one of the best jobs in the country. They hired an assistant coach off of Nick Saban's staff. I think also, too, about, USC took a guy in Pete Carroll who hadn't coached in college for a very long time. So a lot of different ways that I think programs decided to approach it. And ultimately, I mean, the only thing that was in common between a lot of them is that their coaches managed to find a whole lot of success.
Yeah, immediately when looking at the top of the list, I mean, with both Urban Meyer and Pete Carroll go like, what if they had just, well, in Meyer's case, like stayed on the straight and narrow, and Carroll had stuck around, like what would their numbers look like? Saban's the obvious number one. Like there's no debate. How much of a debate was there for you on number two, and that being Urban Meyer?
There wasn't actually a lot of debate for me at number two, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One, I mean, just the success that he has is incredible. The other thing, too, and I clarified this on the list, I only allowed a guy to be eligible once because, look, we didn't need 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to all be taken up by 2 Nick Saban tenures and 3 Urban Meyer tenures. But, I think that there are 3 Urban Meyer hirings that could have ended up on this list. Of course, we went with his Florida hiring, but the Ohio State hiring, I think he transformed that place in a lot of ways. Utah, for example, right? I mean, Kyle Whittingham ends up on this list, but when Urban Meyer leaves, this is an undefeated number 2 in the country team. So, he has been incredible everywhere. So 2, to me, wasn't that big of a discussion. I think once you got to 3 to 5 and you got into the Dabo, the Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh was on that list. I think that's when it got a little bit more interesting, where you start to weigh some cases and especially weigh some longevity. But to me, actually, number 1 and number 2 were pretty easy.
Shahan Jararaja with us. How much when someone like Chadwell, Jeff Traylor, that took over programs that were not otherwise known as autonomy 4 type programs, Matt Rule, Baylor, Temple, whatever, but how much of that played into where you might rank them because they took over programs that had not been very good and made them better?
Well, and I think that for both of those programs, what was striking to me, UTSA and Coastal Carolina, may I mention, is that these were 2 programs that really hadn't played football for a very long time. I mean, UTSA, I know, started their program essentially in 2012, had never really had competitive seasons. And then Jeff Traylor goes and takes them to being one of the best teams in the group of 5 for 2 consecutive years, has them, in the AAC championship race in his first year there. So, I think that played a big role when you talk about defining programs. I mean, you look at most of the programs in college football, there have been, 100 years of history at each of them. But I think to take a place that really had no history, had nothing necessarily to sell, and turn them into something that's pretty special, I think that's a great thing. And same deal, I mentioned with coaches that might have been non-traditional hires. Coastal Carolina promoted Jamie Chadwell, and he had been a small college coach beforehand, so not somebody who was obvious. Jeff Traylor, similar deal. He was a Texas high school coach who was on staffs at SMU, Texas, and Arkansas. And by the way, not especially good staffs at any of those 3 places, still ends up being a tremendous hire. So, for me, I definitely wanted to make sure and include some of the names down the board that I think have really been big deals. And especially when I look at those 2, they had multiple years of success and were able to build really over the course of 4 and 5 years.
Jamie Chadwell, I want to expand on him a little bit. Are you surprised that he has been stuck? I say stuck. He may not feel that way, but he hasn't gotten those interviews. I'm wondering why, a Virginia Tech or somebody close that's needed coaches in this Jamie Chadwell hot streak between Coastal and then Liberty the last couple of years hasn't brought him in.
Well, I think that Jamie Chadwell is a fascinating case. And the reason that I say that is because that guy is as deep South Carolina as South Carolina gets. He had coached at, I believe it's Division II, FCS, FBS in the state of South Carolina. And so when you start talking about the jobs in that state that open, I mean, South Carolina opened a couple of years ago. The thing that Jamie Chadwell doesn't have that really is a fatal flaw in the region of the country where he's from is he's never coached in the SEC. And I think that that is a huge knock against him when you start talking about some of the programs that might have gone after him. I mean, look, I'm not saying that would have been decisive necessarily, but let's say that Jamie Chadwell was tight ends coach on Nick Saban's staff in 2009 or something like that. I think he's treated differently as a coaching prospect in that region of the country if he is. Now, again, obviously he ends up at Liberty. He actually makes close to power conference money as the head coach at Liberty at around $4 million. And I do think that, this allows him to be a bit more patient and wait and make a good decision. But again, I think that there is so much obsession with some of these SEC ties that when you are a Southerner who hasn't necessarily touched that level, it makes people feel like you're outside of the club.
Shahan, Mike Gundy at number 8. What a long and illustrious career. There's a couple big things that are still missing, but just kind of what do you make of where he is and where the Cowboys find themselves right now? I mean, what kind of year do you think he's walking into in terms of pressure and expectations? And do you think that they're equipped with all the changes they made this offseason to try and meet those expectations?
Well, to speak to Gundy first in his career, I mean, you look at the success that he's had, it is up there with any coach in the country, the number of 10-win seasons, the number of years that they've been competitive for conference championships. The one small knock against him is that he only has actually won one conference championship. That put him a little bit behind Gary Patterson for me in that book. But this is by far the most important moment of his career. Now, his legacy is set. I mean, he's a college football Hall of Fame coach. Let's be clear about that. But he has not adjusted well, I think, to this new world. And you look at 2024, I mean, we've heard over and over again, the years that you expect that Oklahoma State is going to be good, they struggle. When you expect they struggle, they're going to be good. He's never had a 3-9 before. He hasn't had a missed bowl game since 2005. He had 18 straight years of winning seasons until this 3-9. And by the way, this was not an untalented 3-9 team. Ollie Gordon's gone. Braylon Presley's gone. Colin Oliver's gone. Nicholas Martin is gone. These are really good Big 12 players that they're going to have to go into 2025 without. And on top of that, they replaced essentially every single assistant on the roster, including both coordinators. So the DNA of this program is essentially gone outside of the guy at the top. And it's just a lot to me to think that with so much turnover, with so many new faces, with so few proven commodities, that this is going to be a team that's going to be able to bounce back. So I think that this team is a bottom tier Big 12 team until further notice. And if that does happen, I mean, look, I don't know what it even looks like to fire Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, but I think that some difficult conversations will probably take place.
Great point on that. Shahan, there's a guy at number 12, Kyle Whittingham, Utah. What he's done there is phenomenal. Nearly 2 decades, but last year, boy, they other than Oklahoma State, man, they
kind of
blew
similar to the Gundy thing in a way, yeah.
Exactly. Can he stay? Is he entrenched in that top 15? Because we're now through 25, we got one more year left. But what if they blow a tire again? Does he drop a little bit, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that for him, I mean, a lot of what he accomplished is, over the course of 15 years. And, the seasons that he put together at Utah, top 5 type seasons while playing in the Mountain West and WAC, moves over to the Pac-12, wins 2 Pac-12 titles. And I will say, I have him a little lower, again, than Mike Gundy and Gary Patterson, because he didn't necessarily have as many of the high seasons in the power conferences. So I don't think that he's a whole lot of risk of falling more than 1 or 2 spots if he does struggle. But this is a big season, I think, for the future of this program. I mean, here's the reality. Kyle Whittingham has said in the past he doesn't want to be coaching past 65. He's 65 this year. They brought in a whole new offensive staff, a whole new offensive system, a new quarterback in Devin Dampier. So they're investing a lot in this being able to be a kind of ride off into the sunset for Kyle Whittingham. They've already named their defensive coordinator, Morgan Scally, as their head coach in waiting. So a lot of pressure on this year, and I think he really wants to end his career with at least a little bit of a bow on it.
I like that you got a little bit of a homer pick in there, Matt Rule at Baylor, because you're speaking about specific coaches, specific points in time. But it's not a homer pick in that while he may not have like this title or that title, like I don't think people truly know, and you were here, boots on ground, but if you weren't, you don't really understand what he did at Baylor in the time that he was here. And a lot of people were upset to see him go. But, I mean, for me at least, no matter what he does, I'll always remember that. And I just found it interesting that you put him on here, and I can understand where you're coming from with that choice.
Well, and listen, I weighed very heavily putting his Temple tenure on here as well. I mean,
Sure.
what he accomplished there is unbelievable. But I think back to that search in 2016, and look, I mean, they had a new athletic director in Mac Rhodes at the time. Obviously, the program reputationally was in a total tailspin. And they decided to hire this unknown Northeasterner, who, by the way, picked Baylor over Oregon in a lot of ways as well. So, I mean, it was just such an unorthodox hire. It was an unknown hire. And I'll always go back to that first press conference that Baylor had when he was hired. I mean, they didn't really have a true press conference. They had a rally for their fans to show up. And I think that Matt Rule kind of stood at the podium and like a Baptist preacher almost, was able to really win back the fan base. And, he by far has the shortest tenure out of any of the coaches on this list at only 3 years. But he took a team from 1-11 to 11 wins. I think, while obviously Dave Aranda is credited with that Big 12 title that they won in 2021, a lot of that roster and infrastructure were players that were brought to campus by Matt Rule as well. And when you view it in the context of the moment that he was hired and where Baylor was, I mean, again, if they miss on that hire, we might be talking about Baylor back into the way that they were in the 90s and 2000s. I think that the fact that he came in and really stabilized things is something that, fans aren't happy with him right now, but I think that hopefully in the next couple of decades, they'll realize what he did.
How much did you at least discuss, despite the wreckage in 2016, how much was Art Briles discussed or you think about him on this list?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because, I mean, here's the reality. Let's just say hypothetically that whole situation doesn't happen. I mean, he's probably a top 10 person on this list, right? When you talk about the way that he built Baylor, what he left behind here in terms of facilities and recruiting and players. But it's also about as bad a way as any coach has ever gone out at this level, and I think that, and the other thing too, like, the one that I think was also a very interesting case was Art Briles at Houston, because he, again, similar deal, took over a struggling program there, was really the guy who kind of helped set that program on the right path. They get Kevin Sumlin after that and really kind of ride off into the future. So, I mean, he was a very difficult one to try to evaluate. But, again, when you talk about the downsides of how things ended, it was just really hard to try to include him over some of the names that were on this list.
Question from the chat room. Bill Snyder's maybe the number one ever about rebuilding, restructuring, not renovate. He restructured and rebuilt an entire program. Hell, he built the program. He came back and did it again, and they had a couple of double-digit wins. Was his first tenure trumping him being on the list, the second tenure?
No, that's a good question. I mean, I think that for me, certainly while he was formally hired again in 2009, like it was a continuation in a lot of ways of something that happened before the year 2000. And the other thing that I'll mention as well is that by far his best teams, most exciting teams were some of the ones that happened during that first tenure. I mean, I think about 97, 98, 99. Those were, I think, the best years of Bill Snyder, even though he came back, had another tremendous run, competed for conference championships, won one in 2012. I do think that that for me, I definitely weigh his first tenure a little bit more than his second.
Anything else, guys? Thank you, Shahan. Appreciate your time. Have a great summer. Hope to have you on again. Will you be at Big 12 Media Days? I'm sure you will be.
I will. I hope to see you guys there.
We will be there. We'll see you there. Thank you very much. Shahan Jararaja with the CBS Sports. I put the link to his story up in the chat. You asked for that, and you also got it. Mike Leach was 13. Matt Campbell, 15. Many other, like Willie Fritz at 20. Paul Jimbo at Florida State, 22.
That was a tough one because, for him, I know a lot of people say he stepped into a pretty good situation that was just not modernized. That's what happened to Bobby Bowden is that Urban Meyer came in across the state and he's sending guys text messages and talking to them on Twitter. And they asked Coach Bowden, like, hey, are you doing this? And he's like,
what is it?
What is it?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? So they just had to modernize, and he did that to great effect. I think he's probably lower on the list because he set the program ablaze as he walked out the door. So,
well, you also wonder, was he tainted because of what happened at A&M too?
I mean, I just, I think you can taint it enough by the fact that he got so great. It wasn't all his fault, but he got so cross with the school that, he decided, like, I'm not only going to leave, but I'm going to really, like,
it's like the Joker walking down the street. Yeah.
Just slam the door on the way out.
Yeah, I think it's a fun thing to chew on and debate, and certainly, maybe switch around this or that depending on what your flavor is. But it was a very interesting list to look at and kind of refresh some memories. And we'll never be able to do this because it's impossible. But if you could put together like the what if universe and everything is in place the way you want it. It's like, how does college football look in the 2010s if Pete Carroll had stuck around at USC and if Urban Meyer could just not be a dumbass for like 5 seconds and had some morals and could just, be a great football coach. Just been fascinating to see kind of how those programs would have continued to be in the mix versus a Saban's Alabama. And eventually, and so we'll never know. Pete went off to the NFL. Urban,
won a Super Bowl.
That found his way to Ohio State and then left there as well, by choice or not. But a lot of fun names on there to look back on and fun time periods as well.
Top 10 was Saban, Urban Meyer,
and specifically they're at. It's not like Urban Meyer everywhere he was. It's Urban Meyer at Florida.
Yeah. Dabo Swinney, Clemson, when he took over, he was the interim. Pete Carroll 4, Kirby Smart 5, Harbaugh at Michigan 6, Gary Patterson 7, TCU, Gundy 8, Oklahoma State, and then Chris Peterson at Boise State. He took over for what? Dan Hawkins and Dirk Cutter, and then D'Antonio at Michigan State at number 10. All right, when we come back, John Wilner will join us, the Wilner Hotline. There's some simmering going on out in the mountain area and also Pacific West Coast with what's going on maybe with the possibility of some realignment. How much of that is legitimate? How much is it true? What's about the future? That and John Wilner, he's next. This is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center. Valley Mills in Waco, just off of Valley Mills and Richland Drive. I was there. It's been a couple of weeks since I was there. And, of course, they had that great event a week ago tonight, where they had the beer, craft beer. They had the food truck. And then all the various cigars that they have. 48-foot walk-in humidor. When I was in Florida to visit my brothers, we went to a cigar shop, and it was very nice. Beautiful, beautiful place. But what Don Humidor has with their 48-foot walk-in humidor is fantastic. They have Vita Dreams, a CBD product. You take it at night. It helps you just kind of like you're relaxed. One of the things somebody asked me, in fact, one of the parts of the golf group, they said, but do you ever feel like you're taking something maybe that's going to drug you? No, it's CBD. You don't even feel it. It's not like it sneaks up on you. It allows me, when I get in bed, and then next thing you know, I'm asleep. It's not tossing and turning. There's going to be nights like that at times based on what's going on with your mind. But no, Vita Dreams, it works for me. It's a CBD product. Great cigars, also fresh coffee beans and more. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans between Richland Drive, Valley Mills in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC. An equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
John Wilner Hotline with us, 365 Sports. Thanks today to Sam Kahn and Shahan Jararaja. And there's our man that holds down the West Coast for us, the Pacific time zone, John Wilner. John, thank you very much for your time with Craig and Paul. David Smoak. So there's some of this like simmering going on with the Pac-12 and the Texas State story. And is that real? So what is the truth right now with what might happen with the Pac-12 if they get an 8th team?
Well, there's 2 things going on with the Pac-12. One is they need a media rights deal to start next July. And I think that they are probably days away from announcing that. Separately, they still need an 8th football playing school. And Texas State is absolutely, I think, at the top of their list or very close to the top of their list. My guess is that those 2 things, the media deal and the expansion move, will come separately, but there's a chance they'll try to do it all at once. And I think both will be wrapped up, in the next couple weeks.
John, Texas State doesn't have to make any rash decisions and all that. So they could sit back and wait for offers to come in from the Mountain West or the Pac-12. Seeing as the TV deal, the media rights deal will probably be a little bit more value than those other leagues. What would ultimately stop Texas Tech from taking it, if anything, or Texas State from taking it?
I suppose if they don't think the money's right. And one piece we don't know is whether they would come in as a full share member or at a partial share or at no shares to the SMU route. My guess is that they would get at least partial share status, especially in the beginning years, and then, have it ladder up to full share status at the end of the contract term. They could stay in the Sun Belt if they want, but this is an audition the next 5 years, right? I mean, the ACC and Big 12 schools are auditioning to get in the Big 10 and SEC. The Pac-12 schools are auditioning to get in the Big 12 and ACC. The Sun Belt schools want to move up too. And if you're Texas State, I think that the path into the playoff and the path into a higher level of competition it runs through the Pac-12. To me, if you could be in a conference that's got Boise State, why wouldn't you do that?
John, when it comes to the Pac's grand plans, I know there's a lot of uncertainty still. We know they need that 1 member, okay? So let's just figure that's probably going to be Texas State, or just assume they're the favorite for that right now. Beyond that, once they get that secured and they're like, all right, cool, we're at our number that we need to be at, how much more growth do they envision, or do you envision for them?
I'm not sure there'll be much after that. They could try to take football-only schools. They have to have 1 member they have to add 1 member in all sports. right? Let's say that's Texas State. They could still try to get, say, Memphis Tulane as football-only members. They could look to try to get some basketball-only members. There's a lot of options for them after they get that one all-sports school. I think that they are going to try to stay lean. They view they want their competitive floor to be as high as possible. They don't want soft schools, either football or men's basketball, that are dragging everybody else down. The investment piece is very important to them in this expansion. Which schools are going to guarantee that they're going to invest to win in football and men's basketball? I think that they're going to stay smaller. The only issue with doing that in football, right, is the schedule. If you've got only 8 football playing schools, then you've got a 7-game schedule, which is a problem if you've got to play 5 non-conference games, or you play 8 conference games and there's a kind of a home and home situation. So that's the one piece that makes me think they may try to get more than 8 football schools is the conference schedule rotation.
Yeah, and then if like Big Ten, SEC, I know they're fighting, whatever they're doing right now, debating. But if they do a scheduling arrangement, and then there's teams now that suddenly you can't it's going to be hard to find 5 non-conference games. I didn't think about it from that standpoint.
It is, and that's a good point. Not just for the new Pac-12, but for the Big 12 and the ACC and everybody, right? There is a trickle-down effect with the SEC and Big Ten. As they debate how to deal with the CFP, it's interrelated with the SEC going to 9 conference games, playing a crossover series, the play-in games on championship weekend, right? If there's a crossover series, you do have to wonder how many games are SEC and Big Ten schools going to be willing to play, even against the Big 12 and ACC, right? Baylor's got they have a home and home with Oregon coming up, right? It starts in 2 years, I think.
Yep.
So is Oregon going to want to keep that series with Baylor if they know they're playing Georgia or they're playing Auburn as part of their 3 non-conference games? So there is a risk all the way down the food chain based on which direction the SEC and Big Ten go with their series.
John, I'm afraid to bring it up, but how much, if this TV deal is just days away, can they expect? Is that in that? I saw part of, I think his article, you said anywhere between like 8 and 11 million a year. What's that going to be?
Somewhere in there. I mean, it's not going to be much. It's going to be somewhere around a third of the Big 12 deal. If they can get 10 million per school, I think they'd be very happy. They may end up in the 8-9 range. And it also depends on the share status, right? If Texas State comes in at a half share, that's a little bit more for everybody else. I think they're also going to implement some kind of performance-based revenue model like the ACC's doing. So the the top schools in a given year could earn maybe 10, 11 million in conference revenue, but it's on the margins compared to the Power 4. The biggest thing for them in this deal is going to be exposure. They have got to have a package of games on broadcast television so that their product can be seen coast to coast, right? I mean, the CW is most likely going to be that network. They got to have 14, 15, 16 games on the CW every season so that they can be seen. It's much worse to be irrelevant than it is to be poor in their situation.
Do you think that they will? I mean, obviously everybody's going to play in whatever windows the TV thing, but do you see a lot of Thursdays, maybe not going to Maction, but do you see a lot of that maybe in this TV deal?
I would not be surprised if there's some Thursdays, certainly Fridays. I think that there's a great window, after the Big 10/Big 12 game on Fox on Fridays, which I think is starting at 8:00 Eastern, maybe 9:00. There's a doubleheader window potentially there for the Pac-12. We'll see if they go, maybe try to sneak a few games in on Sundays. I'm a big proponent of somebody playing on Sundays in college football. There's a few windows here or there that they could do to try to, get a little bit more money out of the networks, because the networks will pay for that flexibility and they'll pay for having content in windows that don't have a lot of competition. So we'll see some weeknight games, I would think, for sure.
So I kind of know the deal with UNLV. I know there's some financial things. They pledged to stay where they are. They also don't have state in their name, so they technically can't be a part of the new Pac-12. I'm just joking, yes. Obviously. But people talk them up because of Vegas, as you well know, and just everything blowing up out there in a positive sports way. Where is really UNLV in your mind in terms of trying to be bigger than they are, and were you surprised it didn't work out in some form or fashion with the Pac? Just kind of where do you see their future? And is it the way that people portray it as being as potentially great if all things are operating in all cylinders?
They had a chance to get in the Pac-12 in the fall, and they turned them down. I am not as big on UNLV as a member of the new Pac-12 as others. I think, what you want is Vegas. You don't want UNLV necessarily. And do you make the move because of the area more than your desire to have the school? There's potential there, right? They have had 2 very good seasons. Now we'll see how they do under Dan Mullen, right? But they've got financial problems. They think like their goal is to get in the Big 12 in 2030, 2031, something like that. And they seem to think that staying in the Mountain West is a better pathway to get into the Big 12 eventually. I don't think that's right. I think you want to be playing at the highest level you can the next 5 years to try to get into the Power 4. And I think the Pac-12 playing with Boise State is a better pathway for UNLV. So we'll see what happens. We don't know for sure that they're in the Mountain West. There's still this mediation and these lawsuits going on that could have an impact. But for now, it appears that they'll stay in the Mountain West.
Is there anybody else in the California area that's near a good TV market? For example, I think it was a day or two ago, somebody brought up a San Jose State or someone. Are any of those schools?
Sacramento State, baby.
Sacramento. Are they even on the radar right now?
No, they are not.
Okay.
San Jose State does not bring the Bay Area market. That's been clear for many years. And Sacramento State, nobody, the Pac-12, I know for sure, has not had much interest in Sac State. I don't recall ever seeing the school lobby for itself as much as Sac State is, and that certainly didn't have much of a positive impact on their waiver attempts to get into the FBS. So now they're probably going to play an FCS as an independent. But the Mountain West and the Pac-12 have not really been interested in adding them. That it's a big TV market. The degree to which they would bring that whole market, I don't know. But there's a lot of players in that region. But I think the Mountain West and the Pac-12 feel like they're already there geographically in that region for recruiting purposes. Fresno State has the Central Valley of California locked up much more than Sacramento State does.
I got to ask this because California and Stanford, of course, they found the landing zone in the ACC, and they are making good money. I don't know what the budgets are. They both have huge endowments and all that. Let's just say college football's landscape changes again, and somehow the Pac-12 fits, and it gets in that little niche. Are the grant of rights or whatever else that Stanford and Cal have, would they ever consider whatsoever wanting to go back to their homeland, so to speak?
Well, I think that there's a couple ways you could look at that. One is, would they go back to a Western-based conference for their Olympic sports? And I think the answer to that is absolutely.
Sure.
This thing does not work at all for soccer and swimming and golf, right? I think everybody sees that. If you're talking about football, I think the only way they come back, the key to the whole thing is UCLA. If UCLA comes back, Cal will come back, Stanford will come back. I don't know that the Bruins would. I think the only way that happens is if there is a restructuring in which the Big Ten as we know it ceases to exist in the 2030s and UCLA comes back to the West Coast in a kind of a reformed conference structure. That, to me, that's the only way Cal and Stanford would come back, is if UCLA's with them.
They would never leave that money, though, would they, UCLA?
No, but what we don't know is if they're going to have that money, right? Yeah. I mean, the Big Ten is going to put in a performance-based revenue model. And if you're in the bottom half of the Big Ten, you're not going to get nearly as much as the top half. If there's a super league, is UCLA in that super league? If there's some kind of, consolidated Big Ten SEC conference. I don't know that UCLA is guaranteed to be involved. It's most likely that UCLA will stay in the Big Ten for a long, long time, but the only way Cal and Stanford come back is that slim chance that UCLA does as well.
Is that the most popular question you get, is how can the Pac possibly get some of their pieces back, and is there a chance that they can reform? I'd have to imagine you get that quite a bit, especially Cal
I get it a lot. I get it a lot, and part of the reason I get it a lot is because it's so clear that this doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Everybody sees that it doesn't work. And the other reason I get it is because there's so much potential for disruption everywhere else, right? I mean, the ACC, their settlement with Florida State and Clemson makes it pretty clear in 2030 when the grant of rights exit fee drops to a manageable level, that ACC could rupture in 2030. Big Ten's deals up in 2030, Big 12's deals up in 2031, and this gets lost in the shuffle. But both March Madness and the CFP deals are up in 2032. So everybody can see that that's the window where something big could happen. And you combine that with the fact that it's pretty clear that this doesn't work for the West Coast schools other than in football. And I get that. Yeah, I get it a lot.
John, do you have a dog in the hunt when it comes to playoff model? I don't know if we asked you this before.
I don't. I mean, I would prefer that they stay at 12. I think 12 is good, especially with the change so that they go to the straight seeding model as opposed to the top 4 conference champs getting the buys. I think the straight seeding is better. I don't really have a big preference with the 5+11 versus the 4-4-2-2-1. I think that there are pluses and minuses for both. And those pluses and minuses, there is a domino effect, right? We mentioned it earlier. The Baylor-Oregon series in some ways hinges on the model they pick for the CFP. And I think that is getting lost in the discussion. A lot of people are focused just on the CFP itself and don't understand how it all connects to the regular season. And the other thing is, frankly, the whole thing's screwed up, right? I mean, to me, they have to change more than just the format. I think the selections show is a big part of their problem. I think that the weekly show boxes in the committee and creates, it undermines faith in the process when they get boxed in, and they've got big problems, but they can't get rid of the show because then they got to give ESPN money back. And so it's just all, where do they put the extra games if they go to 16? There's so many problems with the calendar, and that impacts the playoff, which impacts the regular season. It's one big mess.
Last thing for me, how big was the eruption of applause in Berkeley with Cal finally being able to move on, so to speak, from their athletic director?
Pretty big. I mean, he was zombie AD the moment they hired Ron Rivera to take over as general manager of the football program. There's a lot of parallels to Stanford. Once Andrew Luck came in to be GM, Stanford's AD, Bernard Muir, was a zombie. He left 2 months later. Cal brings in Rivera. Their AD leaves like 3 months later. Very similar situations on each side of the bay. Cal's, and neither of those ADs was popular. Cal's certainly, Jim Knowlton was very unpopular with the football folks. So everybody's very happy that he's gone.
John, great segment. Hope to have more of them with you down the road. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
John Wilner, the Wilner Hotline, with us as we check in on what's happening. We've had some stories about that in the last couple of weeks where there's more than simmering with Texas State, the Pac-12, the Mountain West, what's going on with Sacramento State, et cetera. And the UNLV part of it, which we had Steve Cofield on, their sideline analyst, yesterday to kind of give us a little feel on them too.
Yeah, I think that was, if you're not somebody who pays close tabs to the western part of the country when it comes to a lot of those storylines, I think that was pretty informative to kind of wrap your head around everything that's going on and some of the bigger, I guess, stories or rumors that seem to pop up as headlines, like Stanford and Cal. They're coming back to the Pac-12, and it's like, well, it's not that simple, but is there any legitimacy to it? Or Sacramento State and all of the headline grabbing about their big hires and trying to move into FBS and just various things along those lines. So, yeah, it's kind of a nice change of pace, and good to talk to John about what's going on out west.
And we appreciate his time. When we come back, Craig's smoking off the radar. Paul Catalina about an hour from now with his top 5. And Andrew Valet has thrown out a couple of his polls as he does every single day. And then every single day we close the show giving you the results and percentages, votes, etc., of what you voted for when you went into the poll. All right, when we come back, 365 Sports, Garrett Ross, Emery Winter, and Andrew Valet helping us in putting all of what we have on the air and content everywhere back in one moment. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marcos.com. I just went online to look at what they're having. There's always something. The lunch specials, triple pepperoni magnifico, specialty pizzas, all of that. Every day there's something. Always an opportunity with a code word for you to get a great opportunity with a code word or what you want for lunch, dinner, etc. They also now have the Flavor Kick, the Karate Kid, Legends, Marco's Pizza, $9.99, a large pepperoni magnifico. Use the code word Legends. Bob Mock owns the Marco's Pizzas in the Central Texas area, has been in the pizza business throughout his entire lifetime, and he now is the owner of Hewitt, Robinson, Woodway, also Belmead and China Spring. Marco's Pizza, also the fastest growing pizza brand in America. Bob's a smart guy. We've known him for a long, long time. And he knows what he's doing. He's taken from no Marco's to 5 inside this area around Waco proper. Marco's Pizza. Also, if you want to be involved in maybe buying a franchise, you can go online and there's a franchising tag at the top with the menu. Marco's Pizza. My favorite is the pepperoni and Italian sausage magnifico, loaded with all sorts of meat. It's fantastic. It's great for you. Pick it up, have it delivered, do what you want. And, of course, it's Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Welcome into 365 Sports, and it is time for Off the Radar as we take a look at a variety of stories going on around the world of sports. And we will start off by getting into something we haven't brought up whatsoever. I'm kind of surprised. I know you were saving it for me to be able to talk about it more in depth, but I don't even think we mentioned it at the top. The College World Series
I thought you'd bring it up,
is set, and we have Coastal Carolina. The Chanticleers, am I saying this correctly now? Chanticleers taking on the LSU Tigers. Garrett Ross's Go Tigers, after what was about as insane of a...
He rolls one over. Robinett's got it. Getting over there late. Throwing behind him, and it gets past Helfrich.
Inning last night as the Razorbacks in a back-and-forth game that was really entertaining ended up with Arkansas taking a 5-3 lead into the ninth inning. You see that initial play where gets away from him a little bit. End up now with a walk. You've got one out. You've got men on first and second.
This ball is hooked to left
then
field.
You've got, that goes wrong. And this is following the double play that they decided the shortstop decides to not turn the double play. So let me run down the scenario here because we're playing the clips, and that's awesome that Garrett has those available.
Of course he does.
I mean, they're burnt on a CD that he's going to be watching at home all weekend long. But I mean, this is the final blow right here. Is Arkansas sees their 5-3 lead evaporate. 3 runs given up in the bottom of the ninth inning. LSU wins. Arkansas fans. I mean, I've seen some coping, man, as you can imagine. There was one tweet I saw, and I should have pulled it, but I just forgot to. And there was an Arkansas fan that's just like, we're just losers. It's like, we're just, just coping as much as you can, especially in the moment. He's like, I'm a lifelong Arkansas fan. It's like, we are losers. We just cannot seem to win. And we were saying very briefly in the group chat last night, what a win by LSU. I said, what a choke by Arkansas, because it was absolutely a choke job. They had 2 plays in that game, not turning the double play, or in the ninth inning, not turning the double play, and then just the complete botch of a line drive in left field, and that is what opened the floodgates. And I'm going to get down to how that all occurred, but I do want to say LSU is a freaking school that rises to the occasion every single damn time, man. They're not having all the success in all these various sports over the last 10, 20 years, particularly because they're not good in the big moments. There's some schools that just can't seem for maybe a time period or so to handle those nerves and handle that pressure. And Arkansas clearly did not know how to handle that pressure and those nerves last night. And you have a guy who's turned a double play 1,000 times this season, just not make the right mental choice. And then you could feel it. Everybody could feel it. But here's what happened. 5-3 Arkansas, bottom ninth, 1 out, men on first and second, grounder to short, and Arkansas shortstop decides to throw to third for the force out. And everybody at that point is kind of like, The announcers are like, what was that? And then, sure enough, you get the throw to third and you get your 2 outs, and you're 5-3. Men on first and second, you mess that up, and then you have the line drive to left field. That gets botched. Those 2 runs come around to tie it up, and then eventually you have the little flare there at the end to win the game. But damn, man, that was an epic choke by Arkansas. And look, that was a battle. That whole game was a back and forth. So it's not like LSU was totally undeserving. Arkansas got their moments as well. But, man, just turn the double play. And I feel so sorry for that young man because, that's all he's thought about since last night. But then makes the catch right after that, and it's just you could just feel the nerves got to the Razorbacks.
The shortstop is going to be a top 15 pick in the draft,
He's great.
too. He's
great.
Fantastic. He was probably the best player in the game last night overall.
But what was he? Did he just panic and throw to third? There was no
I just don't think he was thinking. In baseball, man, you've got to have your head screwed on so tight.
Yeah.
And I just don't think he was thinking about it in full. He either didn't understand the situation or I don't know, just wrongly assumed that they were going to get another out easily. I don't know.
They were set up they're in double, they were set up for it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he got it and he was when I kept watching it over and over again to think is he further over than I think he is?
No, he could have easily turned it.
And like I watched it several times thinking like, all right, so you've got to, just braille like, oh, look, there's a guy running past me. I better throw to third. There's a force out there. Like, no, like, and look, and maybe the guy beats it out at first. Maybe he does.
Okay, so you have one more out,
but then you're in.
The guy at third doesn't hurt you.
Yeah,
the guy at third doesn't matter because it's just going to cut it to a 1-run lead anyways. Yeah. But instead you don't turn the double play. You throw to third, you get the second out, and then you could just feel it right there. And I remember thinking for like a half second, I was like, well, they'll still probably be okay. But there was the other part of me going, damn, man, that game was over, and he just allowed this to go on. And sure as you know what, I mean, then you have the line drive, and it's the total panic on the left fielder's part. But maybe a mixture of panic and also slipping a little bit as well. But I think there was some nerves that got involved in that play.
That was a weird body.
His body kind of was.
I wondered if he thought the ball. I wondered if the ball got in the lights or he just. It was right at him. It was almost the worst thing that happened is it hit right at him.
It was a hard shot, probably difficult to judge. He looks like he slipped a little bit, but it looks like he slipped in part because his mind and his body were not communicating because the nerves got involved or something.
Like Emery coming out of a sports bar.
The shortstop reminds me of Alex Gonzalez when the Cubs, like he botched that play, would have been the third out. Then Bartman happens, so that, like, so the thing is you get that, like, exactly. Yeah. It's just there. And then all of a sudden everybody's thinking about it. The left fielder, I think in that moment was like, oh crap. So like,
just don't hit it to me. Don't hit it to me. Oh no.
Like, all of a sudden everybody catches it. You saw it
hit him
in
the face. Yeah.
So like everybody catches whatever nerves are out there, and I think that's what happened to him.
I want to go one thing real quickly with the topic. Somebody in the chat, Fish, said, "Are they the best program to never win a championship?" Paul,
nope.
Florida State, second all time in World Series wins, but no championships and 4 runners up. So that trumps what Arkansas has been through.
No, listen, Arkansas. I'm going to tell you right now. I respect your pain. I understand it. But if you even think that you're on the level of my suffering, you know what? We'll fight in the street.
Hey, they've got a case though, Paul.
They're once FSU wins theirs, then you're up. You can suffer. You can take the title. In fact, I want you to have it. But right now, no.
No, I mean they've been through it though, man. That's a brutal heartbreak for Arkansas and a game that was there. I mean, just turn the double play with your future MLB shortstop, and instead he makes the whatever happened. Like, and it also made me think of these aren't major leaguers. Like he will be, and a bunch of those other guys on both teams are going to be in the major leagues. But that's college baseball. They're still quote unquote kids, right? And they're not the big leaguers who don't really let the nerves get to them, even though it can happen from time to time. But that was one of those things like that does not happen in MLB. Like they turn the double play, nobody breaks a sweat. But in college, you have just young men involved, and nerves are real, man. And nerves were very much in play. And the drive to left field were clearly just nerves got involved.
So line drive
that
out.
dinked him right in the shoulder.
I know.
Like it bounced right off his shoulder, and you just saw the panic ensue. And so kudos to LSU. I mean, as much as, yes, you can point to Arkansas and say they choked that away. I mean, that is true. But LSU just seems to rise to the moment, guys. I mean, they do it in football a lot. They have so many other successful programs. You're successful like that because you shine in the big moments. And that wasn't all them taking advantage of it. But when they got their opening, they took full advantage of it.
That guy hit a rope. I mean, it was no doubt. It was hit so much right at the outfielder, you wonder if he had even time to react.
I could not believe that. I mean, I could and I couldn't, but man alive. I think everybody had that thought, though. When he did not turn that double play, you're like, they should be okay, I think. But
and then you had the play when the first baseman, cut off that grounder, and that goes over the play. You just saw. And Garrett, suffer to hell with you.
Hey, look, man.
Go Tigers.
No, I literally had a text message in the top of the ninth written out to y'all that I was about to send in full panic mode. I was losing my mind because the Arkansas got so hot. Their bats were heating up and everything. They took the lead. Even in the 8th, Bear Jones misses that ball, allows them to get back in the mix. But no, it felt like this was a collision course for the past couple of months between LSU and Coastal. But no, I really felt bad for Arkansas's fans last night.
Oh.
I hate the calling the Hogs. It made me nauseous. But at the same time, like if I can honestly see Coastal beating LSU. I think they have better pitching overall. If Cade Anderson can't get it done, I could see the Chanticleers getting it done. And I think that would honestly be good for the whole of college athletics to see a program like them win a championship. But at the same time, I want to see LSU.
It would be their second too, right?
Yeah, it would be because they won it in 2016.
Yeah, so two in less than a decade.
See, this is the thing that annoys me, and I'm all for
dude.
Coastal.
It's been 7 years, bro.
I know,
it's forever.
Like,
it's a drought.
7 years, and and here they are, like, oh yeah, we got it. Another one, 23 games in a row, and
they're so good.
They're so
No, you know what? And they know it. And there's a swagger, but it's not cocky. They just go out and grind.
They know they're good,
dust.
and they are good. And so that ought to be a great series. But man
we're
alive,
talking Coastal, not LSU.
Man alive, that was an insane ending. High drama, and just kids playing ball and things happening. You know that happens sometimes. And so here we are. It'll be Coastal Carolina and LSU, the 13 seed versus the 6 seed, rolling into this thing, and that'll get underway starting on Saturday. Game number 1 of what will be was best of 3 series, right? So we'll get game 1 on Saturday, and then see where Sunday will take us as far as, is somebody going to win the title on Sunday, or are we going to be here on Monday talking and leading you into a night game there? So if they do split these weekend games, Monday at 6:30 would be the tiebreaker, and that's what I'm rooting for because I want the most dramatic way possible. But Garrett, how you feeling, man? I mean, that's a hell of a way for a team that you root for to win a baseball game, and especially in a situation like that.
No, I was really excited, man. It's been fun to watch this team grow over the course of the year, and I'm still a little nervous about their pitching because, like I mentioned a while ago, like outside of Cade Anderson, you have a true ace, but you've seen it from Anthony Eisen when he gets on there. Sometimes he can get in his head a little bit, and then their depth, it's good. But you're also relying on like a really, really good freshman to come out there and make plays for you. I think that Bear Jones needs to be more consistent in batting because he's had moments where he goes on these streaks where he can't hit anything, and then he comes up clutch like he's done the past couple of games. Overall, I feel good about where LSU's at. I like where Jay Johnson has this program. I was kind of nervous early on in the year when, especially like in those games with Texas where they were losing and things. But at the same time, I feel really good about where this program's at, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go in the future.
More importantly, LSU is dominating. It's shocking. The Rocco's shot total.
Of course they are.
By like
25,000.
Close, man.
Next is Arkansas and Murray State, and some of them have gone home with just over 8,000 and under 9,000. Coastal Carolina's hanging around pretty good.
UCLA, and granted, everybody's had different stays, of course, but UCLA, I think that would have been a solid pick for last, and they are going to finish last.
I picked them. Remember when I did it last week? I picked them second to last because I thought Murray State wouldn't have the.
Murray State crushed them.
I didn't think they had the volume of fans to do it.
Shoot.
But they proved me wrong.
What state are they from?
Kentucky.
Yeah, you can.
Murray State had more than UCLA plus Arizona plus Louisville and plus Oregon State, like, combined.
Yeah. Like I'm disappointed, particularly in Arizona.
It was a short stay, but yeah.
I'm particularly in Arizona.
I don't want to start conflicts here, but if it was Arizona State, would they have fared a little bit better? I think they probably would have. So LSU over 25,000 Rocco's Jello shots now at this point.
17,000 over the second.
The next closest, Arkansas, who's now going home, they had 8,700. So that's just absolutely insane. So Saturday, Coastal Carolina, LSU, game 1. College World Series National Championship on the line.
Best of 3.
And and so SEC trying to add another baseball title, but Coastal also with a recent title of their own. So that ought to be very interesting there. And man, that was just totally insane last night. Meanwhile, tonight, one of our guys here, Garrett Ross, very excited to see his LSU Tigers punch their ticket to the finals in Omaha. And we've got this other scallywag, our very own Emery Winter, Oklahoma City Thunder fan, who tonight may experience one of the greatest moments of his entire life as the Thunder have an opportunity to win their first NBA championship. Game 6 in Indianapolis, Pacers, Thunder 1 win away, up 3-2, 7:30 start time over on ABC. And, I mean, we don't have him mic'd up, but I know this would mean a great deal. I know what it meant when the Mavericks won their NBA championship and how that felt and how complete I felt as a fan. And then the Rangers to finally win theirs. Like, I am a fully complete sports fan. I do need to see a Commanders Super Bowl because the Redskins won their one and only that I got to see when I was like 7 years old, I think. So I haven't seen that modern day, but to see the Rangers win one, like, I'll die happy. To see the Mavericks win one. But Emery, thank you, Garrett, for getting him hooked up. Excitement level, nervous level, where are we heading into tonight? And, like, just kind of describe what all this means and what it would mean if they're able to – they're definitely going to win. No chance there's not a Game 7, right, Emery? But where's your head at in such a big day?
You know, I am nervous, but I told Paul whenever he came walking in, there's a confidence that I have about being able to close it out. So, you know, obviously I'm nervous, but whenever we win, which will be tonight, I just have a feeling I will cry, and it will be probably one of the most exciting moments of my life. And I think this weekend I might be going to Oklahoma City just to celebrate.
Oh, Bricktown, baby.
Yeah. And, you know, I do have a very good feeling about this, and you know, I'm ready for them to bring it home. That's for sure.
So does this trump anything else you've seen as a championship?
Yeah. Who are your other? Do you have other teams you root for that have won titles that are like as meaningful, or where does this kind of place in your all-time sports fandom if the Thunder do win a title tonight?
Yeah. So I went to Baylor, and so like seeing that basketball championship was awesome.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, but I think just growing up and having, you know, growing up and not having the Thunder, and then back in 2008, whenever they came, my dad is a huge basketball fan, so I grew up going to the games. I had season tickets and stuff like that, and so really growing with that team, and then also seeing, like, I was too young to really understand all the stuff that went on with Baylor basketball, so like that doesn't really resonate with me. But seeing Kevin Durant leave and trading Harden and then having to rebuild and everything, you know, it's just going to be.
You've kind of grown up alongside them, right? Like almost the ages are like as far as the Thunder in your life kind of coinciding. Yeah. So that's, you've been sort of.
I got on the Thunder shirt right now.
Champagne's on ice.
They had Durant, Westbrook, and Harden.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And
Mavericks
Serge
beat them.
Ibaka whenever he was really.
Yeah, that's right.
Mavericks beat them during that great playoff run.
We don't need to talk about
well,
that.
no matter what. No matter
I want to go start.
what,
Let's start with game one of that series. So it was 2011, and but no, Emery, we're excited for you. There's no way this can go wrong whatsoever. I'm knocking on wood for you, but I know what the feeling's like, and especially when you know it's there, like it's there for the taking. And I do feel like the Thunder are probably going to take it tonight, but if not, they get to go home, and I feel like there's no doubt they're going to take it there. But get it done tonight, though, right? Get it done tonight.
I could care less if they finish out in Indy or in Oklahoma City. I'd rather them finish off at Indy. Just, you know,
you won't sleep if they don't win tonight.
I want them to beat them by 40, just because I've been hearing all the bitching about, oh, Tyrese Halliburton's hurt. I'm like, okay.
Well, there's an asterisk on this title.
He's walking okay now. He walked out of an elevator or something on his way. He looked like he's walking around okay.
Jumping off the elevator, though. I mean, that's where it.
Yeah,
that's where it
they
gets
shot
you.
his ass up pretty good.
But I think I'm jealous of Emery's nice and calm. I guess I can say 2023 Florida State, like those games, like the last, like you like it, I enjoy it, but I hate it. Like hate the day. Like I'm nervous. I don't want to lose. It's like all that. So I'm jealous of people, especially that when you walk in and you see that fan that's like, it's happening tonight. And you're like, are you sure, man? Like, do you know how sports is?
Yeah. I mean, I can see that's a little bit different though, because you're banking on a playoff committee to put you in it for a chance to.
I was thinking
this is actually decided the way a championship should be decided.
So then going back, like I can tell you that Red Sox, like when Max Muncy hit that grand slam and the Dodgers won, and then I had to stay up after a game, watching all that to the end, a high school game on a Friday night. When they played again later in the week, I was a wreck watching it. I was a wreck.
Yeah, well,
I drank like 4 whiskeys before the third inning.
I will say, with all my confidence that I have, Oklahoma City losing the next 2 games would be a very Oklahoma thing to do.
Yes, that would be a very Oklahoma thing to do. So you're going to watch totally sober, right?
Yep.
Champagne on ice, though. So for the post celebration, yeah. But no, I think they're in very good shape. So Emory, been there, done that, know what it's like, and hopefully you get to experience that later on tonight. Yeah, as the Thunder try to win their first NBA championship in franchise history. So, we got some skin in the game here. And then I guess I'll close it out. There wasn't a ton of other stuff today in terms of big news, and this is definitely off the radar for most people, but not for Garrett. How do you feel about Matt Duchene re-signing with the Dallas Stars on a new 4-year, $18 million deal?
I actually like this. I'm interested to see what they do with the rest of their roster. But I think getting Matt Duchene in there, because there was talks about him and his family. He didn't want his kids to have to go to another school. They really like it in the area. So I think what he can contribute on a regular basis, it's good to lock him down. Now, what I want to know is what's going to happen next with Tyler Seguin or Jamie Benn, more so Tyler Seguin, because I feel like he would be the
if they have to pick between one of the two, who do they bring back?
To me, I'm bringing back Jamie Benn because he was healthy last year, and he's been more consistent. They're very similar, but that's one. But I think getting Duchene was very crucial for them to continue the momentum they have. Now, how you address that around him to get better, that's going to be the key.
So you just want to point that out because it is off the radar, and that is definitely off the radar compared to the finals going on there. But notable because the Stars are in a weird spot where they're not nearly good enough to win the Cup, but good enough to be a Final Four team basically every year, and they've fired their coach, and now it's a matter of what talent do we bring back. So that was a big signee for them. Reported earlier today. So Matt Duchene returning to the Stars, and I think that's about it.
Well, Craig, thank you. That World Series game even got the chat room from Baylor 88 Bear. What happened to Arkansas last night was eerily similar when Baylor gave away a super regional to Arkansas on a ground ball that went through the legs of the shortstop. I was covering that.
The
game.
reaction in this room just went,
yeah.
I didn't have that feeling, but I was like, holy crap. But it was stunning.
The reason I said that is
you were doing PA, right?
No, I'd been fired at that point. Or replaced without them telling me.
We will do stories about that later.
But no, it's random. No, I was actually sitting in the auxiliary media area, and it was painful because that was the last great night of Baylor baseball. There hasn't been a great night of Baylor baseball in high stakes since that point. That was the night it died. No. And Mitch Thompson and Steve Rodriguez, they both he did all he can. Mitch Thompson did all he can to get it back. It's just a weird time, especially for sports like that. And, but that was why I said that, because since that play, it's never been good again.
If you want to in the chat room, Craig, thank you very much. By the way, doing the highlights and everything, that was awesome. I didn't know whether we could do that or not, so that's great, Garrett, that you dialed those up, and Craig was able to kind of take everybody through it. If you are a fan of anybody, is there put it in the chat room, one specific moment where your team was about to win a national or world championship that you will never get over, even if they came back and won one down the road?
Yeah, for me, it'll always be the Texas Rangers. It'll be Nelson Cruz misjudging a fly ball to right field that would have won their first World Series, and he totally botched it, and people still try to blame other people for it, and it's ridiculous. Like, you blame the pitcher for forcing a fly ball that would have been the third out. That's his fault that things unraveled after that. And that was who was the closer that
Neftali
Feliz. Yeah. And so for me, that will always be the one, is that should have been their first World Series. It should have been. And they just totally pooped down their own leg from that moment there on. And then I had to wait several years for them to finally go and win one.
Yeah. A little over a decade. Yeah, and then they took the lead again with Hamilton. It's a home run. They still blow the lead. Yep. It's just you wonder if you'll ever see that again.
Well, now I'm over it to a certain extent because they've won one. I was not going to be over that if they were still sitting there with 0 World Series, but 2 years ago filled that big hole in my heart. So I don't really, now that that's been taken care of, I don't really have a big one anymore. That was definitely the easy answer there, but I don't know. Paul, do you have an obvious one?
No, because you've run the table with championships.
It's honestly, it's FSU baseball is the last thing I have, and I would love for them to win in basketball, but what am I crazy? I'm not on meth.
No, FSU baseball would be yours.
FSU baseball,
but you have like a moment of like a championship is right there, and it gets ripped away by just the dumbest thing in the world.
Well, I mean,
you were too young.
No, I mean Buckner, I was too young. I mean,
any wide field goals?
What about Boone?
What?
How about Boone? Well, that wasn't a championship. That was for the.
But that one sucked, though. It really sucked because it was. I mean, finally shaking the monkey off the back of the Yankees who owned him. I mean, there's some wide rights, obviously, and then
were there really?
Yeah, I would say like watching both the Tennessee and Oklahoma games that Florida State played in the BCS championships that they lost, where their offense was just awful in both those games, but their defense was great, and all they had to do was score 3 touchdowns. You do this every week. Like that was the thing
you had the championship in your pocket with the Charlie Ward team, right?
Yeah, Charlie. Well, that one was you.
No, that allowed those other ones to hurt. But
Virginia.
It's like a Lakers fan complaining. It's like it hurts, but it's not nearly as bad as if you were a Timberwolves fan or something.
So they'd already had it.
Yeah,
it wasn't,
mine would have been the Turner Gill 2-point conversion against Miami to try to win it outright rather than kick an extra point and win a national title for Osborne.
The Tennessee game had a built-in excuse because Wenke was hurt. And then the Oklahoma game was the more frustrating one. But again, they just won the year before, so it's not like
so that doesn't count.
Yeah.
So Paul's really never had any pain in his life when it comes to being a sports
God bless
fan.
you tonight. If they don't win tonight, you're not going to sleep.
No, I want this for Emory. Normally I'd be rooting very hard for the Pacers just to see the alternative, but I want this for Emory. I don't want to see him miserable.
Oh God!
Because this would be such an epic collapse that it would just. I don't know how he would recover from that. So man, I think Bricktown's going to be partying up this weekend and could get it done as early as tonight. For his sake, I hope they do.
All right, so there we are with many things. A lot of it off the radar. With Craig does on Tuesdays and Thursdays around 4:45. A couple other nuggets to get to. We will. This is 365 Sports.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
365 Sports, a couple of notes in college football. This from a tweet from Daniel S. Green, Esquire. A bill has been introduced in Michigan that would bar schools from reporting NIL contracts to the NCAA or Deloitte, prohibit schools from assisting any investigation, ban athletic associations from penalizing athletes or schools for non-compliance. Yay.
So that's part of the thing that, the association agreements of you have to agree not to follow your state law. But if it's Michigan, and I believe this guy used to play this state congressman used to play for Michigan State, actually. But in Michigan, they're like, no, I got to protect. He's saying he's got to protect the athletes and all that. And I understand that that's the goal of it. But man, what a broad, or like not a broad, but like a big, swing at, you're going to pass the House settlement. Here's my bill, opposite of House settlement bill.
Yeah, and I see like some of the reactions, like this shows how flimsy House is, or something kind of along those lines. I just think there's people that don't want it to work. I have a hard time believing there's this many people, and maybe I'm just wrong, that are just so pro player earning freedom. Now that might be the case. Like I don't want caps on what we can make. I don't think we'd want that at all. But I see where some of that is coming from. I also think there is an element of like just wanting to watch it all burn. So people love this because it could be the thing that throws a wrench in the grand scheme of things. It's just, I guess my initial reaction to that is I don't know how much of a chance it actually has. But we knew that the moment they tried to come up with a solution, there would be those that start picking it apart immediately. And so here's the state of Michigan and somebody representing what would you call it? A political spot in Michigan that's introducing, basically an anti-House bill. So
I think it more just shows what they're up against. And that I don't know if, like, yes, there's holes in House. They know there is. But I do think that this just shows that this is what they have to. This is why they need the national government to step in. And
this would be like dying by paper cuts, right?
Because you have 50 states that could do this to you at any point. And then say they go 0 for 49, so none of them pass. But the one that does happens to be, especially in a place like Michigan or Alabama or Georgia or Louisiana or Texas that has big-time college football, then all of a sudden all that opposition is going to go away, and then we're back to the drawing board. So that's why they need the Congress to get involved. The problem is that now's really not the time for them. Like, in a bunch of ways, it's just not the time for them.
This is going to lead to Michigan getting kicked out of the Big Ten and joining the Big 12 somehow. This is going to lead to some
Michigan
breaking
they wish
sources.
they could be invited. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, there's an interesting element to the playing along, and if you don't, what the repercussions are. Well, obviously Michigan's not going to get kicked out of the Big Ten or anything like that. And it was funny, though, the people in the comments of one of the tweets about this that I saw, I was like, oh, well, Michigan would never do anything to try and circumvent the system. They would never try to do things a different way, would they? Absolutely not.
So he was a Michigan State guy. You looked that up, Paul?
Yeah.
The Green? Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have the Missouri story? There we go. Great story here. Eli Hoff, who covers Missouri, I think it's the St. Louis Dispatch. Missouri has spent more than $31 million on athlete NIL in the last year, according to financial records. AD Laird Veach and Every True Tiger CEO Brad Larondo both called this practice necessary, an unprecedented, detailed look at their NIL. Not a lot of people have put this out there, and it shows you where they were. In September of 2023, they were like spending less than $2 million. Then it jumped to $4.5 million in January of this year. And now, 6 months later, they have now gone up to where they're spending almost just over $10 million.
Yeah, it was a good FOIA request. He got a mother load of information that we haven't really seen from many other schools. Now, I haven't tried to get knee deep into all the details like your reporters have that are covering this thing on a daily basis, basically, but it is a much more in-depth and interesting look at the actual numbers as opposed to, well, Texas is spending $40 million on football. Just trust me on that, kind of a thing. This is the actual information. So if you're into the spending and how it's changed and all of that, then it's really worthy article by Eli Hoff, which you see his Twitter or X name on there. But it does point out in a chart that he put out, I guess it was a couple of days ago in regard to this. You see this chart, and it shows the spending, and then it shows like a spike in January of 2025. But then you see a spike that's like twice as big as the biggest spike, and it goes from 2 like you were saying, to then the 4.5 to then the 10 million. It just goes like a stock market, like a stock just took off, and that's what that is. That's them front loading ahead of the house settlement. Is what that is.
In fact, the guy, whoever was part of it, said, "Yeah, this is not going to be able to continue when they go to the revenue sharing." No, not at all. It looks like an earthquake. You're like, bam.
Yeah. But it's if anything, it's interesting to look at if you're into just the ins and outs and the information and all the numbers that are actually being passed around. And speaking of Mizzou, I think we know a Tiger or two.
We have the all-time alum and heavy donor for Missouri, University of Missouri,
of that 31 million, at least 13 was Mickey
Spagnola. How you doing, buddy?
If I'd known that, I'd have put my Mizzou.
Put
my Mizzou hat on.
We got
You're on mute.
You're on mute, I think.
Oh, let's see.
There we go.
Where's mute?
Mickey,
jump off and jump back in, Mickey, if you don't mind.
Just click off and we'll go back in and we'll see if we can get you on the mute.
Go, Mickey.
Emery?
I can hear. Talk, Mickey.
You can hear him? We can't hear. Garrett, do you have
I'm looking at all the buttons. It's straight. Yeah. It's showing he has it muted.
Okay. Log off and then log back on. Mickey, let's see if we got something. There's a gremlin in the system. We'll do that if we can. Mickey, he looks, he always looks like he's on the coast or some suntan. He's always had that look. Used to play tennis, by the way, Mickey Spagnola. It looks like that tennis tan. I guess apparently some of those in the chat, some of you heard him. We never did, but Emery did. So we'll see if we can get that. Okay, we'll get Mickey back on again. By the way, if you haven't, I haven't brought this up in probably too long.
I got it.
If you have not subscribed, we appreciate that if you do, and also hit the like button. Mickey Spagnola, let's try it again.
Are we with you?
There we are.
I was saying if I had known that, I'd have put my Mizzou hat on.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about the Tigers athletic department cranking it up.
My money's being spent well.
Yeah, and the football team has kind of teased you a little bit with Drinkwitz, right?
That's right.
Yep.
Hey, 9-3 last year. I'll take it. I know what the pain was previously. So now this year they got to find a quarterback. But I think the rest of the team might be pretty darn good. And they might have been even better last year if the quarterback hadn't missed 4 games because they were playing pretty well.
Mickey, so workouts and all those things are done. It's about the time to, where everybody, holds their breath and hope that no one gets hurt in a jet ski incident at training camp or gets in trouble or before training camp.
Or get caught going 101 miles an hour in the car.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Shadur Sanders had that. What did you glean? It's so hard for the workouts. Would you glean from the first wave of watching Brian Schottenheimer and how he runs things?
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting on how he kind of got this team to try to bond together more so than the football stuff. The practices were high energy, a lot of emotion, no loafing as you would expect, because if you're, all of a sudden working for new coaches and basically all but 3 or 4 guys on the staff now are new. You're going to try hard, and I think we saw that. And from a football standpoint, yeah, it's hard to tell. But I thought here were my 2 takeaways, and I wrote about them last Friday. One was the fact that if you had been in there that day when Micah Parsons was playing ping pong with Jay Toya, the rookie 7th round defensive tackle, and watching this young kid at 320 some pounds play ping pong, and the whole locker room was around the whole deal, and Micah barely beat him. And I saw Schottenheimer standing in the background, and he was smiling like a proud father, like, see, this is what my idea was. Competition with pressure when everybody's watching you. And this rookie held his own until right at the end. The other thing that I took from it is there was a play during the week in the mini camp practices where CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens were running mirrored routes. The ball went to Pickens, and Lamb caught up with him, and I felt like he was a jockey in a horse race, escorting him into the end zone and celebrating together. And the next thing I saw was Dak Prescott coming up from behind and dapping everybody up, and there was a lot of excitement. And Pickens saying afterwards, there's going to be more moments like that. And those things really stood out to me on how well those 3 guys meshed in these off-season workouts, and the fact that Schottenheimer's drive to create a culture, but create bonding, because this is a new team. If you look at all the newcomers on this 90-man roster, and I think he accomplished that. Now you got to play football.
Mickey, you mentioned all the newcomers, and there were some like Jordan Lewis, like Tank Lawrence, leaders on the team, people that were well respected. And look, Tank didn't go out the door all that happy with Micah, I know. But
not until the last 5 seconds of that interview.
Yeah, exactly. But is that part of this too? Like, look, Mike McCarthy's gone. There wasn't really an indication that the culture was necessarily a problem under Mike McCarthy. It just had kind of maybe reached its zenith of where it was going to go. Was that maybe even the bigger thing than scheme and all that Brian Schottenheimer's going to do, just to get a new vibe in the locker room, especially given the fact that some of the veteran players who have been setting that tone are gone?
Well, let's look at the veterans that left. You mentioned Jordan Lewis, DeMarcus Lawrence, Rico Dowdle, Cooper Rush, and Brandon Cooks, and Zach Martin retired. So those were kind of the guys, the glue in the locker room. Well, now you got to hand off. CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, those guys got to stand up. Dak's always been the Pied Piper. They got to find those guys on defense that are going to stand up. Osa Digizua probably needs to be more vocal and take kind of charge in that locker room. Who knows what's going to happen at the cornerback position if Trayvon Diggs is going to be ready to go, but he's kind of off to himself. Deron Bland's kind of quiet. The rest, we don't know if Siobhan Revel will be ready to go. So they need some voices on that defense to step up. Now, Micah's trying. Now, he's got to get signed, and it'll happen eventually. But it was good that he was interacting in the locker room like he was during the mini camp, because that's something that he didn't do a heck of a lot previously. He was almost, you felt like he was an independent contractor. So they need that on this defense. The linebackers are basically new. The guys that they lost on this list that I was given. They forgot Eric Kendricks because he's no longer here, and he was kind of the leader on that defense. So the defense really needs to come together. I think this offense has got some chances here, but the defense, they got a lot to prove going forward.
I was going to ask you this, and again, all this camaraderie and chemistry and all that and what they're trying to do, and there's certain ways, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. They're trying to develop some sort of togetherness. That is great. But talent-wise, you say the offense is fine, the defense is maybe there's a pulse right there. Maybe that's not the right way to put it, but there's a chance.
Yeah. And if you look at it, you know, even though they were playing missing guys on offense, missing Dak, Zach Martin trying to play through his injury that he finally gave into at the end of the season, CeeDee Lamb doing the same thing. Dak Prescott missing, you know, playing 8.5 games, missing 9. The defense kind of hung in there a little bit. It was the offense. You know, I was looking at their 2 losses to the Eagles. They got outscored like 75-13 in 2 games. So this defense has a ways to go. And that includes playing Washington. Now, they beat them once, kind of came close the second time, but they gave up a lot of points. So that's one thing that we got to see if Matt Eberflus can kind of get this thing together. Now, it seems like, you know, with some of the young guys, they've got some talent, but they're young. Donovan Ezeruku. I just noticed that on NFL.com, they came up with their all-rookie team, 11 on offense, 11 on defense. Donovan made the defensive end on the all-rookie team, a second-round pick. Now, given that Booker was going to make it as a guard on the offensive all-rookie team, but if they can get a guy like that to step up, if they can get Sam Williams to do what they were counting on him doing going into training camp last year before he tore his ACL, you know, maybe they got something going once they get Micah Parsons signed and get the linebackers settled and trying to figure out who's a healthy cornerback. Now, the unfortunate thing is right off the bat, who do they got to play, right? The Eagles, Thursday night, national TV. Boy, there's going to be a lot of young guys that are probably, ooh, this is the NFL, isn't it? One of the things we had to do on our website for future answering the different questions, they wanted to know what the most important game of the season is going to be. I picked the season opener because you're going to have this momentum coming out of the offseason, probably going through training camp. And now here you are. And if you lose that first game, and I'm sure they're going to be 5-7 underdogs, then it's almost like, oh, but if you happen to win it, then you're sitting there going, well, maybe Schottenheimer and these new assistant coaches know what they're doing. So I think that's going to be a key to getting this, if they can get this season off to a good start.
Mickey, circling back to Donovan Ezeruku there, he, from what I've read, obviously I wasn't there, but he's as fast as they say, huh? Like he matches Micah very well as far as that kind of, well, if he develops, like what do you pick your poison on who you double?
Yeah, no. And throw in Sam Williams because he's going to come back from that ACL. And, he suffered his early. It was in early August, had the surgery after they got back from training camp. And they were counting on him to play 70-some percent of the snaps last year. So Mike Zimmer saw something in him, and I'm sure Eberflus can't wait to get him on the field and get going. And it sounds like on a kind of a rated basis, he'll be ready to go to start training camp. And if you got those 3 guys, then maybe you got something. And don't forget, Marshawn Nealon was looking pretty good last year until he suffered the knee injury, and it kind of slowed him down. So between those guys, the speed of Ezeruku, and I saw one of the drills they were doing last week in the mini camp drill, and it was like getting in your takeoff stance, and you had 5 yards to get to the blocking dummy. And Sam Williams beat Micah Parsons to it. And Micah, it's like, well, we got to do that again. And he did it again, and Sam beat him again. So that was enlightening to see. So there's some potential, but we haven't seen it. We don't have much to go on. And that's, as I say, what we go to training camp to find out.
Mickey, Brian Schottenheimer's first ever opportunity to be a head coach. His father was phenomenal, incredible. He had big wins, but we always know that there was always something, no matter what
games, right?
Yeah.
Cleveland,
oh my God.
Denver, was
it? With Elway, and of course losing to Elway. That's why he's Elway. Is there any thought that one of the things about Marty Schottenheimer, his teams were fundamentally sound and they won, but they played tight sometimes. Have anyone brought that up to Brian about what his style might be, or we won't know until we see it?
Yeah, but if I can judge on how he's dealt with the offseason, it's anything but tight. He kind of wants these guys to be the leaders on the team. Some of the things he's done, David, you can tell he didn't just get this job and going, oh, okay, now what do I do as a head coach?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's had some of this thought out for several years on this is the way I'm going to do things. And I thought Michael Irvin made a good point after, he was part of watching the workouts when they invited the former players in. And he noticed how, Schottenheimer was good about, slapping backs and saying you did good. And he said, and then they paused practice, took a break, came back and got sloppy. And the first thing he did was stopped it and called them together and said, this ain't the way we practice. So there's a little hard side to him. And somebody asked him, what differences would your dad see in you than what, the things he did? And he goes, oh, my mom's not happy with this, but probably a few more F-bombs than Marty used to use.
Oh, okay. Mickey, thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate it. Don't you usually go on some sort of a 6 or 8 day trip all over wherever you might go?
Yeah, I am. We haven't set the timetable yet, but between these next weeks coming up to 4th of July, the week after, I'm going to take some time. And one of the things we've been threatening to do is go to, and this might sound silly, but go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. And then next day, go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton.
Yeah.
So that's kind of on the list right now. See if we can pull it off.
All right. Let me know your schedule so we don't hit you up and you're not available. Good luck. Have fun.
I can always do it on the phone.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. We appreciate it. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, with us on 365 Sports. All right. When we come back, Paul Catalina, his top 5, and then also Andrew Valade with a couple of the polls that he put up in the chat room and how you voted, how we voted. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, the specials this week all the way through early afternoon on Saturday. Bone-in pork chops, $3.15 a pound. Now we get to the steak. T-bone steak, $12.50. Porterhouse, $13.25 a pound. Salmon fillets at $12.25 a pound. Chicken breast at $3.25 a pound. And also a 10-pound case of hamburger patties at $47. Now, I went in there and I ordered, and I do this about once every 2 to 3 months. I went in there and I ordered some 1.25 bone-in ribeyes. Man, they're just gorgeous. Got 3 of those. I also went ahead and got a tomahawk chop. I don't know if I'm even going to ever cook it. I might just I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but always pretty cool to have it. You can get in a fight with one and probably win with that thing. But they have that kind of course, produce, that kind of protein and beef inside their butcher shop, beef, pork, poultry, and seafood, and full-service bakery with desserts and much more, and sweets. Oh, by the way, for anything over the summer, maybe a family reunion, you want a brisket or something, they have that in the tubs when you walk around with all the knickknacks you need. Cold beer and wine. Waco Custom Marketplace, the Bauer family, since early 1950s, they started getting into the meat business, butcher shop and more, the bakery and more. 425 Lake Erie Drive in Waco.
Clarify your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's the time of the show where you just get me for 3 to 7 minutes of either calm ranting or loud ranting. But either way, it's ranting. And of course, it's brought to you by Flag and Anthem. You, too, can own this exact shirt if you like. From flagandanthem.com, use our promo code 365sports. We're keeping through our Big 12 newcomers in the transfer portal. We're going EMAW now. Kansas State. Let's get into it. Number 5, linebacker Gabe Powers steps in from Ohio State. Look, he's got a little bit of taste of victory in his mouth. He steps into a pretty good team already in Kansas State, and a team with a defensive mindset that really fits what he does. He'll get after the ball carrier. It's exactly what they want in Manhattan. Number 4, guard J.B. Nelson comes in from Penn State. This guy's a house, an absolute house. They need protection for Avery Johnson, and they need more guys to clear the road for the running game. He can do that, and he comes from a system that is producing a lot of good offensive linemen and running backs, so should be a nice, easy transition for J.B. Nelson into the Wildcat lineup. Number 3, Marcavius Moss, safety, Western Carolina. This is another one that I like. I love it when guys from schools like Western Carolina and Florida International and Coastal and all that, they get their shot at the P4 because maybe they were under-recruited. Well, guess what Chris Kleiman and his staff are really good at? Developing safeties. They've been very, very good at it over their tenure. Heck, Kansas State seems to always have a guy in the defensive secondary that has been developed really well and was a diamond in the rough. Marcavius Moss fits that really, really well. Number 2, cornerback Amarian Fortenberry comes in from South Alabama, a team that had, the guy who is now the defensive coordinator at Alabama as their head coach, and he was recruited by him, played really well, can get after the ball, gets interceptions, really runs well step for step with wide receivers. Really interesting to see how he does in the Big 12. And number 1, defensive end Ja'Shawn Ross, another Alabama transfer into the Big 12. And another thing that Chris Kleiman and his staff do really well is develop pass rushers, especially guys who are a little bit undersized like Ja'Shawn Ross. He's not short. He's not small, but he's not maybe as big and fast as, a lot of defensive ends. But a highly recruited guy comes in from Bama and will now join Chris Kleiman and the Wildcats. That is going to do it for this edition of the Top 5. Andrew Valade's polls coming up right now via the vocal cords of David Smoak.
Hey, one note. Tomorrow, Houston Christian football coach Jason Bechtel will join us. Remember, we mentioned how they have had a lot of players sign with high-level Division I FBS schools. His thoughts about that. He'll join us tomorrow as one of our guests on 365 Sports. All right, here we are with Andrew, King Jiu-Jitsu and the polls. With the budget pressures rising, what should colleges prioritize? 43% say strike a balance. That's not going to happen. 31%, but I get it. 31% protect the Olympic sports. 15 fund athlete pay first, and unsure 11%.
I'm kind of with the protect the Olympic sports and do that. Look, in some way, form, or fashion, I think what happens at Wazoo sucks for those athletes, but Craig made the point of it is like, these are things that are gonna happen when we talked about it, but and they're happening all over the place. But I'd rather see them protect the Olympic sports and not make it all about what's going to be 4 or 5 sports at every school.
Yeah, I'm with the protect the Olympic sports. I mean, I think there's probably a way to try to balance as best you can. I don't know what that looks like, but that would be ideal, obviously. So not surprised that's the one. I don't know that anybody has the formula for actually how to do that. And so, yeah, my choice would be beyond that, protect Olympic sports. And I know there's a lot of fear-mongering, valid, in some cases going on about that. I mean, I trust that we're going to have smarter people, but I know I've trusted the quote-unquote smart people before only to be let down time and time again. So, yeah, I think it's imperative. I think it would be disastrous to allow our Olympic sports system, which is basically our colleges, right? I mean, that is like their last stage before the Olympics in some cases. But I just think that would be a shame to let that deteriorate in some fashion because of just all of this greed.
You know what I think happens, though, a lot of times with the smart people in the room? I think this has happened in politics severely over the last 25 years. It becomes such a grind to get common sense things done that eventually you say, forget about this. I'm going to go do something that I can actually finish and win at, you know? So a lot of the smart people leave, and then the people who are just, I'm not saying they're all idiots, but the people who don't have as open a mind or are less myopic and all those things, they raise to these spots, and then they can just focus on these stupid little things, and then that's where it hits the wall. So when you're talking about college athletics and administration, there's so many cooks in the kitchen. I can see where some people that could probably fix it if you just set the 10 smartest people in a room alone and leave them alone until they come out. But they can't do that. So then those 10 smart people go, forget this. I'm going to do something else.
Well, and maybe there's not a way to have a balance of protecting football and basketball, your investments, and softball and everything else, the gymnastics and all that. So if there's not, then that's a byproduct of this, unfortunately. But, man, I don't think it's the end of the world if a school just randomly cancel softball. That's a shame.
It's not the first time it's happened.
No, and it's going to happen even despite this. Just some sports aren't popular. They don't need 150 college programs to exist to be a thing. So I don't think that's the end of the world necessarily. But, man, we got to protect our Olympic sports as much as possible. I mean, that would just be a real shame to let that get negatively impacted, but it's kind of hard to see how it won't in some fashion.
Am I myopic when I'm wearing my left contact?
No.
Okay. All right, the other poll. Which trophy is the most iconic in North American sports? Now, I mean, the first thing without question, I thought Lombardi, but the Lord's Stanley Cup leading the way at 49%.
Well, if they don't carve everybody's name on the Lombardi trophy, you don't get to not all the players get to have a day with it for the year. I think that makes it a little bit more special. And the Panthers already busted it last night, part of this celebration. So,
but it's fixable because it's basically like aluminum foil almost. It's not that, but it's almost tin in a way that you can reshape it. So it's going to be okay. But look, they've already cracked it.
Look, it's not the first time that's happened. It's not the last.
It's been in the ocean. It's been through a lot. Yeah. Look, I don't want to know what mostly it's been through actually.
If it had a camera on it, it had seen some stuff.
Yes,
Lord Stanley. I think it's had a lot of things inside.
How many hockey players have used it to close the deal?
I mean, I think how many hockey players have done everything imaginable with that in some form or fashion. I think it's a nice list of trophies for our pro sports. I think if you had the CFP trophy, that would easily be the fifth and the ugliest of all of them. I think the old crystal ball was awesome.
The crystal ball was amazing.
I love the old crystal ball. I wish they would have played off that somehow. I don't like the lipstick tube that we have now. But yeah, I think I'd go Stanley Cup with Lombardi a close. But I like all these trophies. I think I'd definitely go Cup, Lombardi, Commissioners, and then Larry O'Brien.
When I visited Columbus, Ohio, when Craig's alma mater was going to play a game there against Coleraine out of Cincinnati, Mike, who is in the chat sometimes, will remember, obviously knows about Coleraine. We walked into the Ohio State facility, and there was that what do you call it? That's crystal ball, which is just
Waterford crystal.
Man, it's just beautiful. Crystal. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. It was interesting what Mac Brown said, that they get 6 of those babies after they won the national championship.
Yeah, and it was like the Waterford crystal ball, and then it was on top of a big clunky pedestal thing. Yeah. But it was all about like just the crystal ball. Though
you could have just given that a diet. The big clunky crystal thing, made it nice and svelte, and then kept the crystal ball, which I think
the crystal ball just there's that Matt Flynn, as you mentioned when we had him on in the Sports Illustrated.
And I'll tell you, the NCAA men's tournament, for as fun as it is, that trophy's kind of nondescript.
Oh, it's like a wooden plaque. Yeah.
Congratulations on being the #1 motor oil salesman in the Northwest region this year. That's what it looks like. So
that's a great point.
I think the Lombardi is very stealth, cool, like looking, and especially when you have a club that's got 3 or 4 of them all lined up, it looks really badass to have the Lombardis lined up.
Or 15 of them if you're New England. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate it. The 2 polls every day. We get the results at the end of the show following Paul's top 5. Emery Winter is dialing up, editing the 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW. And then also Garrett Ross, thank you, in hog heaven with his LSU Tigers into the College World Series best of 3. Andrew Valade, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, our great sponsors. Those of you who watch us and however you do, we appreciate that. Back again tomorrow at 3. I'm David Smoak. Have a great night.